and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutilus on the forum.
And this is Parker, go by Dr. Mantis Toboggan MD on forums.
This is Jeremy, go by hashtag, deleted my account, sold all my Marvel models. Probably be my last podcast. Hashtag I quit.
I'm curious how they sold after you smashed them. Did you get top dollar for your broken minis?
Still pending.
Well painted.
Buy it now, not yet claimed.
Was well painted. Was well assembled.
Yeah. The gray bits go to the other gray bits. It's like tab A, slot B, but it's just you attach gray pieces because that's where there's no paint.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So quick announcements. We're down to 231 probationary episodes.
All right.
Feel like Parker is going to get some more probationary episodes added by Jeremy after today. But that brings us to the news.
News. So, I scoured the interwebs, looked all over, cannot find a news.
You're the worst.
I looked for any of a news, and the only thing I found was, I guess, without anything left to share, Atomic Mass Games has just been kind of rehashing, pictures of their stock art. Like, there's look at the Asgardians. Remember them? They're basically just doing member berries for all of the old factions right now. So, that's there's no other posts. It's gone quite quiet after that huge info dump. So
no news.
There was one bit of news I was actually curious about from your side though. Do we not have a Midnight Suns day yet? Do we have a day when Midnight Suns coming out, or is that still pending? No. We still don't know.
So last I counted, there was either 9 or 14. I can't remember. I just tried to check. I can't pull it up from my home computer.
Mm-hmm.
There's about a dozen things that we now know of on the release schedule that have yet to come out, and so far none of them have a release date. But we've been told that they will all be out by first quarter, and so uncertain.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of people with the models that live in Australia and Europe and stuff, but so far I don't believe they're out or we have a release date yet.
Okay. They might be sitting in a boat in LA Harbor kind of thing right now.
They're sitting on a dock in China waiting for boxes to put them in,
right,
to ship them to the US.
Because they're currently in LA Harbor, right?
If you don't live in the US, I know we have some international listeners. The stupidest situation has occurred between the Pacific Ocean shipping, because all of the canisters piled up on the west coast of the US during the pandemic because customs wasn't going through anything to unload it. And so because of that, all of the shipping containers were just offloaded on the docks, and then the ships left. And so they're just sitting in shipping yards, not opened, or if they're open, they just got emptied out, and none of them have been shipped back to China yet. But because the lack of demand on things, there's no reason to ship them back to China, because normally there's just this constant trail back and forth. And now all the boxes are on one side, and so the shipping cost is 10 times what it used to be. Someone was telling me they knew somebody involved in one of the BattleTech Kickstarters. They said normally to buy a shipping container on a super freighter is $1,200 to just ship an entire container over.
Mm-hmm.
Now they want $7,000. It's ridiculous. They just can't afford it. So I guess we're just not shipping it until the price goes down. And so, but everyone's in that situation. And so no one's shipping anything because the price is so high. And because of that, the price keeps going up. And it's just a stupid situation. So basically only essential things are actually getting shipped and opened at this point.
Mm.
Anyway, so yeah, we're basically waiting on that.
So yeah, that's the news. That's about it.
So basically Parker ruined the news, his only segment.
Oh, I don't think I ruined the news. I just think
Thanks, Parker.
Actually,
ruined the news. That's a probation.
I actually think I think it's actually I think it's grounds for taking one off. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you turned on CNN and the person behind the desk just shuffles some papers and goes, "Well, no news. No news is good news. Just no news. No, it's fine."
I would be completely enraged.
Everything you think that's going on is going on. Nothing has happened that's wrong. It's just
I think by the concept of you turning on the news means you want news. So if they said there is no news, you would be upset because you didn't get what you wanted.
I don't know. I mean, when you turn on the History Channel, are you mad that they're looking for ghosts again? Like,
Usually when I turn on the History Channel, they're looking for aliens that
I know.
existed
Yeah.
prehistory.
Right.
I'm like, this is literally not your job. This is neither history
Yeah.
or aliens.
Yeah.
Just fucking get over it. Like, it's like next on Ancients and Aliens, we're gonna look at this fallen tree. Was it aliens? You're like, no! Like, come on!
Listen,
All right.
if I can't turn on History Channel and learn about how to dig for gold or mine gold in the Bering Sea, then that's not the History Channel that I want.
Did you see that there's that underwater gold like reality show now?
There's been one for a long time.
Well, I just found out about it recently, so hold on. I don't watch reality.
God damn it! I thought you were white trash. You're not.
I know,
Brandon.
So like,
Brandon!
people they like Deadliest Catch, and they like people catching gold. So what if they like Deadliest Catching Gold, and they just put the catching gold in the sea? And I'm like, that's not how that works. Like, it's like so what are they doing? They're using the thing down in the water again. This is a show. Yeah, what do they do next? They put the thing back down in the water. And they look for gold again. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is not a show.
Well, they might die.
Oh, yeah.
So there you go.
Basically,
how? They're sitting on a barge using a backhoe. That's not
hey,
a
and they
fucking
damn
complicated process.
they can basically stand up. Like, it's not even deep.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they're just in like the low spots, the shallows.
and basically, they make enough money to just do that, and then go get a job during the rest of the year. Like, they don't want to work, but
It's
they
like
don't
an
make
internship,
enough.
yeah.
It's completely fucked up. And then
It's
all
so
their
stupid.
shit just falls into the water, like, and gets ruined.
But guys, this
Anyway.
is this is history we're talking about.
Do you see?
History.
Do you see what you've done to us, Parker? We're talking about fucking reality shows.
No.
because you didn't have news for us. This
Uh,
is on you. There's no
this-
taking it back.
what you guys just did, this is what should happen. This is what should happen to all news channels. They should just start talking about anything
They should
else.
talk about people mining for gold in shallow water.
Just anything else. Anything except what they talk about. I don't care what it is.
That's actually pretty true. News channels are pretty terrible.
Okay. But
I had somebody who interned at a local news station, and they're like, all right, so they spent 3 months learning how to set up for the show, and they finally got moved up to on-show hand, like an assistant during the show.
Mhm.
And so they got to be there when they filmed the show, and they were very excited. Like, all right, and so like they're like running around doing all this like infrastructural stuff, like getting paper, like make sure everybody has the supplies they need, make sure all the equipment's set up. And then the show's about to start, and like, all right, what news are we covering today? Oh, that's a good point. The guy just turns around and Google's news
Yep.
in whatever city they were in,
Yep.
and he's like, what?
And he-
Like,
and he
his
co-
mind just caved
Yep.
in when they did that.
and they copy
like-
and paste it into the prompter, and just that's it.
Yeah. Yep. That's local news. So world shattered, by the way, if you guys think that those people know anything.
Oh, by the way, that's some local news. Some other local news is depending upon who you're affiliated with, who's your parent
just
company.
copy the other channel story.
No, it's actually it's you're sent your news from some central location, and you have no like editing power over it, and you're told just say this, and you hope it's unbiased journalism, but it's it's not because somebody
that's how unbiased journalism works. You get it from the fucking like roll down supply chain.
Right.
Here's your unbiased news.
yeah.
Disseminate.
Yeah, run this segment about how there's no water shortage or something like that. I'm sure everybody will buy it. Just do it.
All right, so we're gonna move on. So currently playing, I'm still playing the greatest faction in the game, which is Spider Foes. That's right, greatest faction. Not close. They're basically undefeatable from everything I've seen.
They are. I mean, they are pretty strong. I don't think there's anything wrong with them.
I do just wish that they would switch the affiliation list with Criminals and Spider Foes. I would be so happy. Like, I just want to play my Spider Foes in Criminals.
Well, that's just
which
100.
sounds easy. It's not. It's almost impossible.
Well, that's just 100% on purpose, right? Like they're a really effective brawler faction, and so don't let them also score every point automatically.
Well, they're just brawlers that hit hard.
Well,
Where
do they hit
Criminals are
hard?
brawlers that don't hit hard.
Do they hit hard though, or do they just? I actually,
Spider Foes hit hard.
from my experience, it's just they didn't seem to. They had strange, like non-obvious resilience, like the Recombinator and Carnage as heal, and
all of them have just like because they're brutes in general are just stat monkeys, right? It's like you're just buying a wall of stats, and then anything else they do is kind of bonus.
right.
And so yeah, every character I was playing, the list I commonly play is like Green Goblin, Venom, Carnage, Kingpin, and then some combination of filler models. And it's a solid list, and it's got a couple alternate options in there like Lizard. But yeah, they're just for the most part just slightly better than you at fighting, and they just do it longer.
Right. Well, like all of them have the ability. Well, sorry, two of the characters, two 4-point like stocky characters, have the ability to go from empty health to full health, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something that's really we haven't I haven't seen. We've talked about it before, like doing Asgardians and Regenerators and doing double damage stop where you can't take a big hit of damage. But they actually kind of do the opposite, right? Just they wait for having taken a bunch of damage, doesn't matter how they took it, and then all of a sudden they just take it all right back with one good roll. If they get one good offensive roll, Venom or Carnage or both are all the way back up.
Yeah, they all punish you for failing, a lot like Wolverine does and Sabretooth can.
Right.
But yeah, they're really fun to play just because I want to just fight people. Like I'm a very attrition style player, and sometimes I want to play Web Warriors, but most of the time I just want to sit there and beat people up, and that they're really good at that. Even though they don't look good at it, like they don't look exceptional at really anything, but you put them all together, and it's just like an overwhelming force of bulk that it's really hard to push through. So Parker, what have you been playing lately?
I played some X-Force again. I wanted to see if I could ever get not 19 points, and as it turns out, that's X-Force's actual superpower. They have like they have cool stuff on their cards, but really all they mean is you will always get to play 19 points, so you get to play the entire X-Force. I did find out that, as I've been playing a bunch, Jeremy pointed out something. The only character that felt like he wasn't doing like something that I needed to do is Deadpool. I think Deadpool is exactly like a foil for certain kinds of games that you need him to be a foil for. But most of the time he just does a bunch of bangs, and he's not that he doesn't do enough damage or much damage. It's just I feel like Domino's got a clear objective, Cable's got a clear objective, Sabretooth and Wolverine have a clear objective, and Deadpool is just kind of this like gopher, like he just kind of a troubleshooter, and he usually just picks up the objective point. I feel like it could be somebody else. There's somebody better.
I mean, his job is to hold a centralized objective, really.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of his job because he's always counts as healthy. He can take a decent amount of hits. He's hard to move.
Mm-hmm.
He's the contester. He's the token contester.
Right.
Where Sabretooth is like your real contester.
Right. So I'm not sure if X-Force needs that, but I basically now I'm on a mission to continue to play it and just not put Deadpool in a couple times and find out if I'm really missing him. I feel like I do not know exactly who goes in instead. I know it'll be Mordo when Mordo comes out. I'm really excited. I've said that before. I want Mordo in X-Force, and I really want to see how that works. But we'll see.
Okay, Jeremy, what have you been playing lately?
Not really much. So, Sam is dead. I will no longer be playing Sam. Basically everything I know about the game is wrong. My understanding of how the game works is wrong. I plan on pulling the rulebook out again and kind of going through it and regaining I'm
gonna read the Learn to Play again.
Some sort of structure, I need to find some lists online. That way I don't have to take any sort of credit or any sort of like responsibility for my actions or my thoughts, because it's over. It was a good run though. Year and a half, 2 years plus, pretty good.
Are you saying that the streak continues, Jeremy?
No, the streak.
Okay.
I didn't. The streak was. This is a different streak. This is
different streak.
How many models can be killed, KO'd without doing anything? A lot. It turns out a lot. That can happen.
How many times can Deadpool say "bang" and kill 2 people?
It wasn't. No, this was even worse. Everything I know about the game, I am certain one of the worst factions in the game murdered my list nonstop. No punches pulled. I could do not a thing. and lost on like turn 2, essentially. I don't know what to say beyond that. It was horrible.
So for full context, so we don't bury the lead, Jeremy and I played a game, and I played Guardians of the Galaxy with Ghost Rider, one of my favorite versions of Ghost Rider, and Jeremy played his Avengers, and it was the most horrendously one-sided. Sorry, it wasn't one-sided dice so much as it was just my dice were lighting up just so hard. They could do no wrong offensively. And so Ghost Rider was just one-shotting Black Panther. Why? Just because he has changed? I bet he's done some sort of sin, and Ghost Rider murdered him, and he murdered War Machine the next turn.
Well, I mean, Ghost Rider's supposed to kill Black Panther, just not quickly.
Right.
Like, he's supposed
Not with
to kill
his
him
builder.
on like turn 2 or 3. Yeah, the builder's not supposed to kill him. But
Not
like,
with his builder,
he's-
Brandon.
But he's supposed to die. Like, it's he's living on borrowed time. I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah.
Like, at some point, Ghost Rider will get tired of his bullshit and just press the delete button and he goes away.
Turn 1, Ghost Rider moves once, uses his builder on Black Panther, and one-shots him.
Dazes him.
Yeah, dazes him.
That seems bad.
And then top of 2, Jeremy was... I can't remember who you activated first, but it wasn't Black Panther, because you thought Black Panther's got a ton of power to spend. He'll survive. I can't remember who you activated first. It was Captain Falcon, because Captain Falcon came up and you thought he was in a bad spot. So you activated Falcon first.
He's trying to keep Falcon alive.
Oh, by the way, he was trying to keep Falcon alive, so he deep dove Falcon to Rocket Raccoon to see if he could go knock Rocket Raccoon down, and Rocket immediately rolled his trap and
Booby trap.
did
Killed
exactly 2 damage to Daze Falcon in the middle of Falcon's charge. So that was sad. And then because Ghost Rider had plenty of power from the last turn, with his builder, he just penance stared a full health Black Panther, and just that was it. It was gone instantly. Now it was penance stare with the winging it, the Guardians of the Galaxy.
She had the rerolls.
Yeah, so I had some rerolls. So it wasn't a perfect roll. I had to reroll more dice, but
Well,
I
mean,
did. I
he
got
should
them.
die. I
Yeah.
mean, it's 10 versus 3 with... It's just 10 versus 3 because he can't vibranium armor that.
Because it's Mystic.
Like,
yeah.
You should die. Yeah, that should kill him. Obviously the massive unlikely part was
the builder.
hitting him with the builder once and killing him.
Yeah.
That's the absurd part.
Yeah.
How much sillier was your dice in your guys' game than mine? Because I know when we played, you had some pretty good attack dice also.
They were much more
Like,
brutal in our game.
Were they?
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of times you were rolling like more hits than your dice, like consecutive attacks.
Yeah.
Turn 3, where I pulled my model, was when he killed Wolverine, KO'd him. He got dazed on turn 2, and then was killed on turn 3, and I pulled it. Like, the fact of I was blanking out on saves, and he was rolling 5 wounds regularly on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or just the exact, it was unbelievable. That was the most one-sided game I've ever played. It didn't make any sense. It made no sense. I was surrounded by 2-point fucking models. Black Panther was getting ready to go and do his explosion and flatten all of them. So I was like, okay, at least I'll get that and we'll get back into the game. Nope. No, it didn't happen.
I will say, on the topic of Guardians, because I said I was playing X-Force, but I didn't play a game of Guardians. I really like that Guardians can just pick one activation and try to make that one a really strong activation. And I was blowing on the end of turn 3. I had done 2 tactics cards for winging it, and spent the Deadly Duo. So I was using all the tools, but I was rolling way over average on my winging it. Even with the winging it, I was rolling way over average. Winging it was just making sure that it was 5 or 6 damage every time, and that was just, it was way too much. I didn't need every shot to get it because I was hitting way too many off. Way too many dice.
The coup de grace that walked me off the board, where I was done playing the game with you.
Oh, yep, and yeah,
was Lovable Misfit. Everybody else did fuck nothing.
Yeah.
But what happens against Wolverine? You offed Wolverine with 2 attacks, from one with Rocket and one from Groot, to just drop Wolverine from Lovable Misfits. Nobody else did anything. but the model I hadn't activated yet.
Lovable Misfits generated 2 attacks, both of which went into Wolverine and killed him.
Fucking believable. Like, I'm like, that's it. We're done. I can't do this. We're done.
What's the result? I have to look this up real quick. It's been way too long since I've read this card. I just want to know what the possibilities are.
It's a hit. So the possibilities are an attack.
I'm pulling up right now.
Oh, okay.
So on a critical or wild, so 25%, they make an attack with a cost of 0 or gain 2 power. So it's a 25% chance you had, 6 models?
Yeah. Well, one of them wasn't the Guardian, but yeah.
Okay, so you only got to play it with...
Two of them were not Guardians. I only had 4 Guardians.
Okay, so you only got to play it on 4 people. So 1 attack is average. You got 2. And they both happen to be right next to each other.
Yeah.
So that's a little lucky. If you roll a hit, enemy characters in 3 drop their objectives and take a damage. Oh, wait, hold on. No, they don't drop it. If they just are contesting or holding objectives, they take a damage. And then on a blank or a block, they immediately advance short. And on a skull, them and all characters within 2 suffer stun. Okay. I remember the card did a bunch of weird shit. I just couldn't remember what exactly.
Yeah. But I flipped Deal with the Devil because Ghost Rider was never going down that game.
Because who cares?
I flipped Deal with the Devil.
But that's exactly like we talked about this before the game started, and you were talking about how you thought Star-Lord's leadership was bad. And I was like, it's good if you take the right tactics cards. Like if you take the big impact tactics cards that sometimes don't work out. I like Deal with the Devil's a great example. You usually know by turn 3 if Deal with the Devil's important. And then you can just feed it into the machine. It's like, oh, look, he dazed 3 of my people. I don't need field dressing anymore. Feed it into the machine. Like it just, and we all know from playing War Machine, when you add a lot of dice mod on top of already decent attacks, shit can get out of hand real fast. And so, but in this game, it's less controllable, but it's very volatile. Yeah. So if you just start spiking on rerolls, then stuff just explodes. But obviously he was still well outside of the expected average.
Also, like Nebula's rerolls, she was rerolling like a monster too. Like she didn't KO anybody, but she weakened everyone she touched. Like she did 4 damage to everyone she touched. There was a lot of the thing I really liked about Guardians, and I still like about Guardians, is that if you get to use everything you brought with you, like with the tactics cards. So if for some reason something doesn't work out and you never use tactics cards, I hate it when somebody dazes 3 of my models and do it in such an order that I can't use I'm just field dressing. Yeah, I just can't use field dressing, and that bugs the hell out of me, because now I'm purposely going to look for a way to use field dressing for the rest of the game, and I shouldn't be. I should just forget that it's a card. But with Guardians, you're like, no, I'm just going to turn this into a really effective round for a character that I want to try to, hit harder or live longer, or both.
So what's like the best activation you can do? Can you do, if you don't play field dressing, I'm just trying to do some math here. Now, I guess you could play field dressing. So you could do all you've got comboed with a deadly duo, and then also throw winging it on top. And you could burn 3 Taxes cards to make like, what is that? 6 attacks with Rocket, and you'd have rerolls on 3 of them.
No, it'd be 7 attacks potentially if people are still alive.
Because it's 3 additional attacks,
right?
Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
Yeah,
I want to try that.
Oh, Deadly Duos. Yeah, Deadly Duo is a great way to make sure that's used offensively, but also someone like Ghost Rider is great for winging tokens. I found, because he always activates first.
Oh yeah,
and then he has fantastic attacks, and then if he has one winging token on him, he has also pretty strong defensive line and 7 health on the front side. So anybody, we've said this before, playing I'm blanking out on tactics.
Inspiring Monologue.
Yeah, playing Inspiring Monologue on a character psychologically says this character's immune to damage. It's not actually what it says. It just psychologically says that. So having a winging it token on a character, even though it's not actually going to save their life, it makes people feel like, oh, well, if I'm looking at 2 characters I can attack, one of them is Ghost Rider with 7 health, and the other one is Okoye, and Ghost Rider has the winging it token, well, I'm just going to strike Okoye. I'm just going to do it. Even though maybe it's the absolute wrong thing to do. So I think I really like Ghost Rider in Guardians, and I really like Guardians still.
Cool.
Not cool.
I didn't.
Not cool.
But Jeremy and I talked afterwards. There wasn't. While I did get to use all the stuff the faction does, which is great, it doesn't account for the monster dice. Like the dice were just way over the top.
Alrighty. So moving on today, we're gonna do a little bit more rating. So last time we rated the Spider Foes that had come out recently. Now we're going to go back and do some of the Cabal members that we missed. This should be interesting because the Cabal members that came out are kind of odd.
Yeah.
So first off, we're going to start with Bob, Agent of Hydra, who's totally in Cabal.
Yes. Bob, Agent of Hydra, also known as Robert Dubalina. He has 3 health, moves medium, size 2, and he only costs 2. He has 2 physical defense, 2 energy defense, and 2 mystic defense. His stats are identical on both sides. He has a Hydra Pistol, which is a range 3/4 dice. After the attack resolved, character only gains 1 power. Excessive Violence, which is range 4, 9 dice, costs 0. This character may choose this attack only if it has a loaded token. After the attack is resolved, this character loses all loaded tokens. Before damage is dealt, all other characters within range 2 of the target character suffers 2 damage. Before damage is dealt, this character is thrown away from the target character short. This throw is resolved by the player controlling the target character. Then, if this character does not have a dazed token, it suffers 3 damage. Hydra Tactics is a 2 energy cost power. It says choose another allied character within range 2 of this character. Place this character within 1 of the chosen character. And make it spicy, Bob, which is a 8 cost power action. This character gains a loaded token to use for Excessive Violence, his bazooka. He has a passive called Muy Caliente. This character gains 1 loaded token at the start of the game. Now, on the backside, though his stats are the same, he does have a very interesting new ability. It's a passive called But How. If this character does not have an activated token and would be KO'd by having damage tokens placed on it, it gains a dazed token instead. During the cleanup phase, when you would normally flip this character's card, as a result of a dazed token, it remains on its injured side and the character loses 3 power. If at any time this is the only character you control, you lose the game. Now, you've played this character a bunch, Brandon. That was a lot of text, but what does it basically mean?
Yeah, so this is actually very complicated, the way this works. So because you're on your backside, you don't flip the card, but other than that, it's resolved as if you were dazed. And so you would normally just remove the dazed token and all negative effects and all damage tokens. So just like normally when you would flip, then you're still going to clear off all that negative stuff, but you just don't turn the card over. If they didn't put the section in there where you lose 3 power, he would just keep gaining power every time you dazed him again. Mm-hmm. And so they put that in there basically to counteract the fact that you're gaining power for taking damage, even though you have basically infinite health. And so that's to counteract that. You literally cannot kill him unless he's already activated, or you play some kind of effect that just says KO a character, like deal with the devil. Another fun tactic you can do is if you have an action to use or a lot of power, you can use like a combination of Hydra Tactics and a move to place yourself in base contact with one of your opposing characters before firing the missile in an opposite direction. They're forcing yourself to be thrown into their other character, which is pretty funny. I've actually gotten it to happen one time to where that same person was within range 2 of the original target. And so they took the collision and 2 damage. And so basically they're 2 people within range 2 of each other, but Bob's standing in the middle of the table because he's Bob and he's immortal. You just spend 1 move action to move between them and you shoot one of them and the other one takes, dodge +2, which is pretty funny.
That is adorable.
My record is 16 damage with 1 attack. And it wasn't like I rolled 16 hits. I dealt 16 damage that was marked on cards, not counting overflow. I shot Storm. She took 5 from the shot. I threw myself into Valkyrie. She blanked out on the dodge, took 5. And then Magneto, Sabretooth, and who was the other character? Mystique, I think. And they all took 2 from the explosion as well.
How are they all that close? That was just Seems
because
like-
we were fighting over the stupid
Gamma wave?
research station mission,
Oh.
So you point blank
and
somebody.
I got priority. So I was like, advance, die, and he dazed 3 people. Like it's like get wrecked.
It's called excessive violence. That sounds right. Now,
And that's when Jason posted his models online for sale.
so did you? Was he on his healthy side then? So he didn't.
Yes,
Okay, so
he dazed himself as well.
right, but he didn't.
It's impossible for him to make the attack and not be dazed.
Right, but he wasn't on his. He wasn't on his dazed side, so he was vulnerable. Because that's the one way to kill him is if he activates first, you can then kill him.
No,
Right?
You can't. So,
Is that how it works?
when he does his excessive violence while injured, it's during his activation, so he does not yet have an activated token. So by shooting, he dazes himself, making himself immune to any effects.
Oh, okay.
And so you would have to have him activate and not use excessive violence, and then kill him.
Yeah.
Is the only way to get him off the board.
Okay. Which you obliged me
Because
with one
technically, he never actually dies. You just lose the game.
Yeah.
Bob's still actually alive.
Yeah.
Your opponent just achieves victory.
I was gonna say you did oblige me one game because you gave Bob activated saw somebody with a pistol to give me exactly 4 power, and then he was already on his injured side, and then why can't I remember tactics cards today? That's the
You're really bad at words. I don't know.
it's the tactics card thing. The
Medpack.
no, it was the one that resurrects someone. I can't remember.
Field dressing?
I know this.
Field dressing.
Climbing gear.
Yep. So I used
Default.
field dressing on somebody next to Bob. He woke up and killed Bob. You were sad. You were like, why for I do that? Why did I do that?
Yeah, this character is when we first started playing, we thought he was over the top broken. Like he is having a model that cannot die is just a whole new level of bullshit in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to kind of change. It's like when you first start playing against MODOK and Magneto, and you're like, what, you can just choose to not get thrown? And you're like, yes, I can choose to not get thrown. And you're like, well, this is broken. Like you just don't know how to deal with it until you finally take the time to start creating new ways of making them ineffective. All right, I think we're ready for some numbers.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, offense. So I'm going first because I always go first. I don't actually think Bob does that much damage because when you're looking at I think I've reloaded the gun 1 time and shot it, and I played him in probably 20, 30 games. It's very difficult to get that to happen. Now, he does do a lot of damage all at once, but I've also had him basically blank out on the attack, and it does 2 damage. I'm going to say he's a 3. Because if you count his damage over the course of a game, it's very lackluster. But because he does so much of his damage on 1 turn, so it's hard to give proper value to it, right? And the fact that just making the attack means you're down a character for contesting purposes, that's pretty noticeable. So what do you guys think?
I think you make a pretty good argument. I think having basically a free 1 strength 9 attack though is maybe a little better than a 3, maybe a 4, just because it is going to happen. It is a strength 9, and it's pretty much whenever you want. It's that one time. I mean, that's better than some characters. It's better than Black Panther did.
Black Panther definitely does more damage than Bob.
Not versus Guardians.
Not
You were
versus
so
User error.
wrong.
not versus
User
Ghost
error.
Rider.
I'm fine with a 4. I think a 4 is probably fair.
I was gonna say a 4 because the 2 damage on the AoE means that you can count on it, right? It's auto damage. Auto damage in this game is excellent, but 2 auto damage, that's a quarter of some people's health. That's half of
that's
some
a
characters' health.
That's a decent amount of damage. Parker, can you move your fucking cursor? You're in the document, right? Oh, I see. Is that what's wrong? What's wrong? There we go. For some reason, it defaulted the text color to black, which is really stupid. Or to white, I mean. Why are you fighting me, computer? Okay. Alright, so Bob got a 4 on offense. Moving on to defense. This is going to be the tricky part. So how do you give a model That's defense 2s with 3 health, a 10 on defense.
Because he has resurrection.
Because he has cannot die printed on his card.
Yeah, he's never die.
Yeah, as long as you don't do something and you just walk him right into death's door, he literally can't be eliminated, right?
I have had Thanos KO'd in more games than I've had Bob KO'd.
Yeah.
Can he get a 10? Well, because it's not like he's not. The problem is we're rating like survivability, right? Like he's impossible to kill, but you can make him ignorable every turn. Like dazing him is so easy that like he literally does it to himself by accident. And so like how do you rate that? I don't know.
Well,
because like you can't contest a point with him because he just gets dazed. But then he's back next turn. He's more annoying than like tough.
He does require an attack. Remember, like in this game, unless you have some weird thing going on with the character, you have maximum 12 attacks to make of any character, and that's if they never move or do anything else. So he just takes one of those away from your opponent in order to eliminate him, and it's not necessarily eliminated. It's not 100% chance. So
I've not dropped him many games with one attack. It's taken me 2 before.
Yeah, it's the Rocket problem. Like, even though his stats are really bad, it's still hard to generate enough hits to get past any defense. Like, most attacks, it's pretty easy to just do 2 hits randomly, and you're like, well, I can't kill you. Like, the average attack roll is, 3? Like, it's not hard for him to survive a 3-hit. But I don't think we could rate him lower than a 7.
But he's not a lot of defensive characters are like great options to like give objectives to. He's the opposite of that, right?
Yeah.
So like
I would give him a 10 with an asterisk of like, as long as you mean just technically be alive, he gets a 10.
Yeah.
But like he can't contest. It would be like Nebula. Like what if Nebula had this rule? Would we still say she's a 10 or would we say she's an 8? Because Nebula can't contest anyway. Mm-hmm. So if you're just assuming that Bob cannot contest, then he gets a 10. But if you're worried about defense being a way to contest an objective, then he gets like a 3.
I mean, he's always going to be on the objectives that you're going to have to, like, as an opponent, sacrifice something to go deal with him and be there to actually contest. So I don't think it matters. I think that the model's probably been dazed anyway that's going to be contesting. Who's going to waste a fresh model on that guy? Like, no, that's not...
I mean, the odds are that you're going to have attacked at some point with your rockets. You're going to be injured, so you basically don't contest anyway. Mm-hmm. You're just going to score if they ignore you.
Yep. I think he's a 10 with an asterisk. I think you're right on that. I don't think he's a standard Thanos 10 or whatever. Like, It's a different value.
Yeah. Parker, what do you think?
Does he have a
what do you think
defense?
The spirit of the defense value is, the defense rating?
Does he have a perfect defense?
Like, if Thanos had 600 hit points, he would be impossible to kill, but, like, would it matter? It's like, all right, I can't kill you, I'm just going to stop trying, like, move on.
Mm-hmm. That's how I already treat Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos has infinite health. We're just gonna move on.
I think it has to be like a 9.99, right? Because basically he has one chink in his armor, which is exactly this one thing. If you can kill him after he's activated on his injured side, that's the only way to remove him from the game. You can functionally remove him by like constantly dazing him, but that's a serious tax. If you had a character on the board that said, if another character is within 3 of this character, it must be attacked once, but nothing happens to the game state, except this character can't contest objectives. Here you go. If you made a character that said, this character cannot contest or gain objective points, however, all characters must attack this at least once every turn, you'd be like, damn, that seems kind of awesome. Like,
well, I think that's part of the survivability is they look at Bob and they just go, what's the point? And they just don't attack him. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's actually bad to attack him sometimes. So, like, let's say you do 2 damage. Well, you just gave him power, and now you have to attack him again, or it's pointless. Like,
right.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a 10.
I think he's a 10.
And I think it's. I think most people understand when they read the 10. Like, there are ways to get him dead, but it's almost always through misplay, which is we're not really counting because everyone dies if you play them badly.
Like Black Panther.
Yeah, it's just so hard. Yeah, that was definitely all play. Jeremy's going to rage monster through the screen.
Jeremy, the face you just made is just kind of like, can I kill him from here?
I'm going to attempt to use my MODOK Mind Blast on Parker through the screen.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is going to be support. He isn't support, so that's a 1. Control. He actually does not control either, so that's a 1.
Yeah.
He keeps you from
Moving
bunching
on.
up.
Yeah. Is he a blaster or is he a tank?
I
Tank.
think
He's a blaster.
He's a blaster.
Yeah. All right, so how do you rate a 4-10-1-1 blaster? Which is so weird because he should be a 10-4-1-1, not a 4-10-1-1. Yeah, anyone who's played Bob, they initially go, oh, this guy's going to do so much damage. They play him one game, they're like, okay, he does 0 damage, but he's impossible to kill. Like, it's so weird. I'm going to open the bidding at a 7. I very much like Bob. I think Bob is a great addition to most rosters. Just from the concept that if your opponent doesn't know how to play against Bob, they're going to waste so many of their precious activations wasting their time trying to deal with him when they should just probably ignore him.
It's interesting you say 7. That, I guess here's one of the things is he doesn't have like protect. He doesn't like have a cool ability where he rerolls against a certain target. He doesn't have a range 5. Like one of the things about all the characters in the game is they are all the 2-pointers is they all have some really obvious role. And Bob's really obvious role is, what's the word? Circuitous, right? Like you said, you play him, you're like, oh man, I'm going to do this really cool attack. And then you realize that's actually not why you took Bob. You took Bob because he never dies. And that's a weird thing to put on the game board. I think one of the things about him is I don't know when you reach for Bob, except if you're like, I really just want somebody to never die.
So you played that? Armada, so you'll understand this analogy.
Yeah.
But the activation in Armada is very similar to this game, except there's no passing. So if your opponent has 7 activations and you have 3, they can just send their 3 worst people in that cost basically nothing. Then you have to walk into your opponent while they go with all their good people after you've already gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of translates to this situation a little bit.
It does.
And Bob is an additional activation on the table that is not worthless because he can do damage in very important spots and he can hold and contest objectives. So if you outnumber your opponent and they don't have the time to deal with Bob, Bob can go collect an objective, move on to a secure point, and if anybody walks over, he can shove a rocket up their ass. Like, he's got options.
Right.
But really why he's there is for the activation order. He's there so you can send somebody in that you don't care about losing. It's like, hey, look, I ran Bob to this side flank. Would you like to send Wolverine over there to deal with him? Because by that, I mean literally to do nothing for the rest of the game. He's like, I guess. Like what's the point? Like, if you have to commit a 3 or a 4 point model to deal with Bob, I'm winning. So that's kind of how I see Bob. He's like a tempo piece.
Yeah.
2-point models are the 2-point, slot. You're like, okay, I need to grab a 2-point model. I'm just not sure where Bob fits. I mean, you sold him pretty good there. I'd say 5.
I put him right up there with like Nebula and Okoye. I think he's one of like the 3 that should be considered in pretty much every list.
Mm-hmm. I'll go 6 then. 6.
Parker, what's your number?
I actually want to say a 6 as well because I think players are gonna look at him, and even after they play him, they're gonna still ask the question like, why do I want this? I think he's one of those super high skill cap characters.
I think that's probably true. It's like this like snake eating its tail situation because it's like, okay, how do you deal with Bob? And you spend all these resources trying to figure out how to deal with Bob, but he still kind of does his thing anyway. And so then you move to step 2, which is completely ignore him. But when you completely ignore him, he starts becoming more effective because he's able to participate in the game. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, all right, well, now I got to deal with Bob again. And so you just like this just keeps going in a circle of trying to deal with Bob, failing, giving up, him being amazing, going back to trying to deal with him. And it's just like this never-ending circle of like trying to get it just right. Mm-hmm. And so I really enjoy playing him. I don't know that there's an answer. It's like this weird like puzzle. It's like I don't know how Bob fits into the game or why I like playing him, but every time I play with him, I'm always happy I do. Anyway, though, we gave him a 6. Moving on. Next up is Mr. Sinister, yet another very strange, odd character.
Yeah. Cabal's full of them.
Yeah, exactly. The new ones are. The old ones used to be super simple.
Yep. So
All right.
let's go. Mr. Sinister is also known as Nathaniel Essex. He has 6 health on the front side and 5 on the back. Otherwise, his stats are identical with medium movement, 3 size, 4 cost character. He has 3 physical defense, 3 energy defense, and 4 mystic defense. He has an energy strike that gains him power equal to the damage dealt. It is range 3 and 5 dice. He has genetic splicing, which is a beam 4, 5 dice for 1 power. It's a mystic that also has genetic extraction. After each attack is resolved, this character gains 1 genetic sample token. He uses that for other effects. He has a mystic recombinant disintegration spender. It costs 6 with 6 dice area to be determined because the range of this attack is equal to the number of genetic samples he currently has. If on recombinant disintegration he rolls a crit, wild, and hit, you get genetic bursts. After this attack is resolved, each enemy character within range of this attack also suffers 1 damage on top of anything else. He has a power called Engineered Perfection. It costs 0. It removes any number of the sample tokens from his character. Remove 1 special condition from this character for each sample token removed. This superpower can only be used once per turn. Genetic Negation, which is a 1 cost power. Choose an enemy character within 3 of this character and remove 1 genetic sample token. If you do, the chosen enemy character gains Root special condition. Such fun little playthings for 2 power is another one of his active superpowers. Choose an enemy character within range 3 and advance that character short. This superpower can be used only once per turn. Molecular Regeneration. It's a 0 cost power. If this character would suffer damage, it may use the superpower. Remove any number of genetic sample tokens from this character. Reduce the amount of damage suffered by 1 for each genetic sample removed. Finally, he has a passive called DNA Database. This character may have a maximum of 3 genetic sample tokens at any time. And he also flies, which is actually kind of funny. I did not realize he had flight, because in no comic book I have ever seen him fly. That's very interesting.
He's depicted in a lot of places like floating just off the ground, but he doesn't use it aggressively a lot. Yeah. He might just have levitate, and they just call it flight.
That's really interesting.
I don't know.
My favorite modern version of Mr. Sinister, he does not fly ever for any reason. Mm-hmm. Even his clones don't fly. That's very interesting. Why they that's funny.
Well, it's like X-Men. Like fucking everybody that's a mutant can fly
for
like no apparent reason, and then randomly Angel, whose superpower is to fly.
Yeah,
it's like, bitch, there's like 9 people on your fucking team that have this ability.
But I can pick up dudes and carry them to places.
But wings. What if it's raining? My wings get all wet. All right. So anyway, important thing on here, I don't know if you noticed on his strike, after this attack is resolved, this character gains 1 power for each hit dealt.
Oh yeah, there's that was
a misprint. That's supposed to be the damage symbol.
Right.
There's a couple other small things, but I don't think they're worth going into right now. I love this guy. I was kind of on the fence when he first came out, but man, this guy is awesome. I horribly misread his reactive ability, Molecular Regeneration, when it first came out. I thought it said you can spend 1 when taking damage, reduce damage to a minimum of 1. That is, in fact, exactly the opposite of what it says. You can spend any number to prevent that many.
Yes.
Very good. He's great. I don't know what else to say about him. You kind of just got to see it happen. Like, he is so impossible to kill 1v1. Because he ends up with a bunch of damage reduction, and he has mind control. He can walk people off of points. The root is not nothing. There's some matchups where 1 power and a genetic sample is super worth it. Mm-hmm. Because there's characters like Magneto, for example. Like, start doing the math on Magneto when he has to spend 3 to up his defense and spend an additional 1 to throw stuff. It does not work. Like, that kid is bad. Yeah. He basically turns Magneto into Ebony Maw, and all of a sudden nothing works. It's like, why is all my shit too expensive?
You turned into a shitty gray alien.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, he's awesome. You also, like, obviously getting in a game where you have the ability to move people around, it lets you line up his beam 4 a lot easier. And when you're getting multiple beam 4s a turn, you can start hitting 2 or 3 people each time, and then you just end up with this silly amount of genetic tokens. And it's basically impossible to do anything about it.
Well, you mean silly, you mean 3, but he's spending them
3 per attack.
Right, but he's got...
Because if you have a bunch of power, like let's say they run up and hit you and you end up with a decent amount of power, And then next turn, you're like, all right, cool. Mind control this guy in, throw out the genetic splicing, root all 3 of you, throw out another genetic splicing. I have 3 tokens, your turn.
Right.
And you're like, I attack you, I prevent all the damage, your turn. And you're like,
Yeah.
like I'm rooted and I'm not gaining power because he's preventing all of my damage.
Yeah.
So I'm not gaining power back to use for other abilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird. Like he can get you into this like fucking death spiral of no power, and it's really odd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the genetic negation is not once per turn. You just use it as many times as you want. He definitely is going to use it. And of course, I think we can't really start rating him without talking about his he has a set of tactics cards that he's one of those characters that may or may not belong in Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of like Ghost Rider with Deal with the Devil. His cloning vat, and all the ability to just add a character to the game is such an awesome, go big card. If it goes big, it's just amazing. It kind of defines him. It's hard to talk about him without talking about that card. Another way to use genetic tokens.
It's like Deal with the Devil. You have to consider it when you're considering the character.
Right.
So the way I look at it, there's basically Mr. Sinister the character, and there's Mr. Sinister the faction, and you have to pick which one you're going to play every game. If you have the cards in your tactics pool, which is going to be a lot easier once they get their 10 slots going.
Mm-hmm.
But even right now, it's not impossible to throw them in, but you have to play them both. There's the cloning vat, and then there's the forced extraction, I believe it's called.
Cloning banks, technically, and forced extraction.
Cloning banks. Cloning banks and forced extraction. You have to play them both, there's no question, and it's best when you play them with characters that can heal, like Wolverine, Sabretooth, Lizard, stuff like that. When you can just be like, or like Deadpool's a good example too now. Like Forced Extraction, I take no damage and get 3 genetic samples. And basically the way those cards work is you, on turn 3, get to make a 3-point character. That's how they work. They're designed to work that way. Any other way of using them is very inefficient.
Yeah.
That being said, there's a lot of good 3-point models that like being wherever you want. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, Valkyrie's a pretty popular one. Miles is okay.
I just realized cloning banks would be really bad in Guardians, because unlike Duel with the Devil, which is a great card that sits there like as a big boogeyman, you're using cloning banks. Like, you're planning on it. So
I was actually going to disagree with that.
Oh,
I
really?
think it's a good, total fake out turn 1.
Oh.
But it depends on who you're playing against, because it's kind of hard to describe. The way cloning banks works is you want to have an early way to generate the genetic sample tokens. So one way we started counterplaying it was you just don't move anyone near Mr. Sinister until after he's decided if he's going in for cloning banks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, all right, Mr. Sinister starts over here. He plays, he can play Force Extraction if he wants. But basically, you're just going to be everyone's staying the hell away from him. Your turn. And it's anyone that moves just moves to the other side of the board from Mr. Sinister to make him decide if he's going to use Force Extraction or not. And then once he uses it, it's kind of whatever. It's once he activates, okay, now I can move people over there. But so basically what happened is nobody would move near him until after he's played Force Extraction.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm going to make you play Force Extraction turn 1. Because there was actually ways you could set it up to get the 3 tokens on turn 1 without playing Force Extraction. And if that happens, then turn 2 it just happens. So there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
It's really annoying. Anyway.
So
it's,
with all the
Jeremy,
changes in the game, his stock goes way up. His kind of crappy bow, because it only does 1 character, that's going to be universal. Everybody's just going to be able to do that. I mean, it's
not going to be bad. Well, I don't think it's bad right now. People that were bowing multiple times, obviously it's a very powerful effect that's really good. But if you're relying on that to win, then obviously it shouldn't work that way. It was way too strong, right?
For 2 power to move 2 guys and take the point. Anyway, so his stock went way up with that. You can't beat having a range 3 energy attack as his primary. Good lord.
Strike, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And his ability to live forever. He is, to me, the perfect 4-point model. He's not point and click. He's got cool things he can do. He's 4 points. He feels like 4 points. A couple big attacks and he will go down. I mean, that's how you get him. Some big, humongous attacks. Mm-hmm. But he's going to do exactly
the good
what you
thing
want.
about him, too, all of his shit's ranged. His lowest range attack is 3. He doesn't need to get up in the middle of it. So you're generally moving to get to him. And if you have an ability like Charge, he can not only move you away, but also rooted you if he wants to, if he ends up with enough tokens. And so it's really costly for you to come get him.
And I love engineer perfection. I'm really excited to play Blade. Sorry, oh darn it, dang it.
That's 232.
Darn it. How I even said to someone out loud, not even on this podcast the other day, I called him Dompier.
And they're like, who?
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
But I'm actually really excited to play this is how tired I am. I'm really excited to play the Dompier because he drops a condition. Because I hate it's so inefficient when you have to drop a condition in order to make a game plan work, because you want to make sure you're levying all those actions, out at your opponent. You don't want to have to take time for anything else. And I love that he can be using, like you said, if he double taps genetic splicing, he's going to be able to dump some of those tokens into roots, but he's also just saying, I don't want to be stunned. I don't want to be poisoned. I don't want to be. I'm not going to do.
Let me get rid of
things.
this bleed. Let me get rid of this slow. Let me get rid of this incinerated. Like there's a lot of negative effects that end up mattering in a lot of games.
Right.
And for the rooting, I keep bringing up the rooting. I think it's his worst ability, but it's valid. It needs to be used, and people just ignore it. Mm-hmm. Imagine how powerful it would be when your opponent's like, well, because when your opponent spends power, they're planning their next activation into that. Like how many times have you seen someone like Magneto or Quicksilver end their turn with exactly the power they need to use their reactive ability, and you walk up to Quicksilver and you're like, rooted, would you like to can't catch me away? Oh, too bad you don't have 4 power. Right. And they're like, and then you kill them because they were planning on using this ability that they now cannot.
Also,
or like a bodyguard person, like 3 power to bodyguard.
Also,
totally change the situation out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, also, if somebody has low on power at the start of a turn or at the start of the game, and they're okay, I'm going to move up and do my builder on Mr. Sinister to get some power, because he rooted me, and now I have to get more power to use to do something like my my power up, like Carnage's new ability gives him extra dice, or Good God Black Bolt or some horrible thing. Yeah. And so I'm going to give myself extra dice or give myself rerolls or whatever it is, and then he spent 1 token on a root, and then he has 2 more tokens sitting on him, and you're like, oh shit, is this builder going to do 3 damage? It's got to do 3 damage.
Literally impossible.
And that's what you're talking about, how on his card it doesnn't say impossible to 1v1, but when you put him on the board, you're like, shit, this guy, he is so hard. A lot of the characters in the game that are going to count on some power to get it done, they're going to struggle against Sinister.
It's even worse than that, I think, because we've talked about the rooted, and we talked about the reducing incoming damage, but also he's got the mind control, the bow effect. So if you're coming in and you don't have a charge mechanic, or even if you do, the rooted's basically going to make that unreasonably expensive. Mm-hmm. So you can rooted them and walk them away. And so now what's their option? Shake and walk? And the next turn you rooted them and walk them away again? And they're like, I can't do this anymore. Like, what's your option? It's like, I'm gaining 0 power. I'm getting 1 power a turn, and that's both my actions. Like, what is happening? Yeah. It's like, you just can't do anything. He just puts you in this black hole of energy that you can't afford to do anything.
Yep.
What's funny is there's so many bad guys in the game. Like Sinister with all his powers, like he feels like such a dickhead. Like when you play him, he's like, go over there. Everyone line up. I'm going to put a beam over you. Fuck you all.
He's just got this fucking shit-eating grin on his face the whole time. He's like laughing at you while he's fucking you over. It's like, I'm going to fucking strangle you.
In the comic, we were talking about every once in a while. Not every once in a while. A lot of the characters in this game ooze the comic flavor. In the comics, X-Men are constantly just grinding their teeth when they fight Sinister, because he doesn't just like fight them. He makes them feel bad. Like he's just like
he mocks them.
It's mocking the entire time. He's always falling out of a helicopter with both fingers, and as he goes down, and you're just like, and then the helicopter explodes, and he's always an asshole about it. It's never, I'll get you next time. It's always just like, I've already got you. Peace out. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I don't play him as much as I probably should, because while being a complete rogue agent kind of model, like he doesn't need help to really function. He doesn't necessarily synergize with every list. Although maybe he would work in Spider Foes. Maybe I need to start trying him in Spider Foes. That could be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think he makes the best criminal in the game. Like he's
he's a
real
really
dumb.
good criminal. Yeah.
Yeah.
He likes stealing people's genes.
Yeah. Also,
Right.
In criminals, criminals actually usually has the space to drop in his other cards. If you wanted to do his cards, criminals is a place that you might be able to do it.
And like I said, I think the genetic cloning concept, like list with Sinister, is the less good of the two, but it does work and it's fairly consistent in my opinion. If you know what you're doing, it's going to be really hard to stop you from making that clone.
Could you imagine Sinister dropping Groot into your list while you're playing criminals, and your opponent's just like, "Oh, Jesus, Jesus, I want."
Or Lizard. Lizard's also a pain in the
or
ass. Lizard
Lizard
just appears and throws somebody, and you're like, God damn it!
Yeah.
Like, Lizard appears and takes 3 damage off of Sinister and puts it on himself, and you're like, ugh,
Yeah.
like it's like, go away. Nobody likes you. Oh, I guess you couldn't do that because Sinister's. I think they both have to be spider foes.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay,
That would be funny.
let's
anyway,
we love this guy.
let's get
We
to
love
the-
this guy. We got to give him numbers.
let's get to the numbers.
Yeah.
So offense. Well, he's not like leading the pack on offense. He definitely does more damage than you would think because he's got the range 3 strike, so he can do it from really far away. It's a good energy type, and then he's got a beam 4 mystic attack. While Mystic's not necessarily the best damage type, it's always really good or really bad. And so he's got the 2 best damage types just available at all times. They're both better than range 2. So that's great. Doesn't have any action economy for himself. I would say he has the bow effect to bring people in, but all of his attacks are the same range as his bow, so that doesn't really matter. I don't know. I think I'd probably start with a 6. Having a beam 4 as a 1 cost attack is really good.
There's also something to be said about some characters, when you flip them over, they don't have any way to use that 8 power. Like 8 power, what are you going to do with that 8 power? He'll definitely get to use that 8 power with recombinant disintegration. Like an like A3 with 6 dice on all of them. Yeah, it costs 6, but there's a good chance you're going to get a damage. No, this is actually something I was curious about. With the genetic burst, you have to roll a crit, a wild, and a hit. But A3 means you are probably going to roll that 3 times. Do all characters take a damage if you do it 3 times? If you end up rolling...
Every attack, each enemy in range, including the target, takes 1 damage. Every time you roll the dice.
So
if there was 4 people in range and you triggered it 4 times, they would each take the result of their attack and 4 additional damage.
yeah, like that's
a lot.
That's deceptively insane amount of damage. You do
That's a lot of nuts.
Yeah, if you how many times have you rolled a hit a while in a crit? I mean, it happens.
It does happen on like 6 dice attacks. It's not super common.
Right.
But like we were talking about the other day, like I hit Rampage 4 out of 4. Like that's
Right.
incredibly devastating. It's like 12 extra damage.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy amount of damage.
Yeah.
But on this one, because it's so big, AoE 3 is huge.
It's
like
enormous.
the majority of the play area.
Right.
Yeah, it's very annoying. By the way, he has probably one of the coolest injured side artworks. There's just like holes dug in him that he's
Yeah.
like slowly healing up. It's so cool. Anyway, so I said 6, I think. I think I said 6. What do you guys think?
So I'm going to throw something in there. So using his tactics cards, how much value is slinging a Valkyrie out of a pot at your opponent as extra damage?
I don't actually think it's that great. I think the best play out of it right now, I meant to talk about this earlier, but I got distracted. I think the best play right now is Quicksilver. Because Quicksilver can show up, go anywhere, do anything, and play his "Can I borrow that card?" to steal an objective. Like imagine if your opponent has priority. Their first order of business is summoning a Quicksilver, who then moves across the board and steals the like Kree power core from your guy, and then runs away. And you're like, this game is completely turned on its head. Like it's a completely different situation now. But anyway, I don't actually value the person coming out of the pot very much because the cost of resources to get that character in the game, it really feels like you pay for him.
Yeah.
Every time I summon him, yeah, it's cool and it's nice to be able to like make a game time decision on who you need. But realistically, I haven't had it happen and I've been like, well, I probably would have lost the game had I not summoned this character. It's never really come up that way. I'm just like, now that I've played him without those cards for a while, I feel like it's an even trade for the most part. Like, the extra genetic tokens and extra power you're going to have throughout the course of the game. And you're not going to constantly be trying to make the thing happen. You can just do whatever the best thing is at the time. I think it's probably a little bit better to just play him without it. But the ability to choose that 3-point character in the middle of a game is pretty powerful.
So without that, I'm going to include the bow and the genetic splicing and go for 6 as well. The ability to throw a beam. You said 6, right?
I said 6, yes.
So that's why I give him a 6. He can line up a crazy beam. Like, he can just do it.
Okay.
That's pretty nuts.
I think he's a 6 also, because he has the ability to roll a ton of dice in a single turn. But between late game, he can roll the big AOE around himself, or mid game if he's ignored, he's going to be able to line up the beams. But he doesn't fix them in any way. He just rolls a lot of attacks consistently.
And he is fairly power hungry in most factions, but in Cabal,
yeah,
if he's getting one every time he hurts somebody, that can add up real fast on a beam 4.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's definitely an option. All right, moving on to defense. I think this is actually his best stat. His 3-3-4 stat line with 11 hit points does not do him justice.
Mm-hmm.
Combination of all of his debuffing people and repositioning them helps a little bit, but the damage reduction on that molecular regeneration, that I don't know how to put it into words if you haven't seen it happen. Just imagine he has 9 extra hit points. Like, it's at least, like, he gets at least that much extra per game.
Yeah. It's non-dice based, non-bottom line, right? He doesn't need dice to make it happen. Like,
he has like Hulk level hit points,
right,
because of the damage reduction. But the best part is you get to dial it in. You get to see the dice and everything happen. You're like, oh, I was gonna take 2. Now I'll prevent it. Like, or it's like, I'll take the damage because I want the power. Like, you get the choice.
Yep.
Or you can save it. Like, oh, if this attack does damage, X happens. Like Wolverine's Berserker Barrage. Well, I don't want to get thrown, so I'll just save all my tokens for that attack.
Right.
And you get the choice. That's like, your opponent can't like beat it out of you with other attacks. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Oh, by the way,
I gotta say,
it says would suffer damage. It does not say from an attack.
It's from anything. Yes, it is from anything. Which means on gamma radiation or the gamma wave mission, he can just stand out in the middle of nowhere for as long as he wants, and there's nothing you can do about it.
There's so many things in this game that say just take a damage and
once he has some tokens, he can.
Or just throws, just throws. He bought, you bought, and unlike Brace for Impact, you can see the roll first. You roll.
Or like Venom. Venom counterattacks you and does like 4 damage on a We Are Venom. Nah, I'll take 1, heal 1.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, well, that's different.
Yep.
That was not what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think he's a 7. Maybe even an 8, but I think 7 is fair. I think 8 would be a hard stretch just because he can get one-shotted if he doesn't have any tokens. Like, if you spend all your stuff being aggressive and you just get randomly dice spiked, he is vulnerable to that. But that's about the only time you're going to get rid of him in an easy way.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call it being Black Panthered, for the record. Anytime you get unjustifiably
why do we call it that?
Should
we call it being Ghost Rider? Shouldn't that be what it is?
Yes. Well, the thing happened to Black Panther,
yeah.
So I don't know. Sure, we can call it Ghost Ridering.
It's Ghost Panthered.
Getting ghosted.
Yeah, just getting ghosted.
Because you turn into a ghost.
Yeah, I like that, getting ghosted.
Getting ghosted.
I hate you both.
I didn't do anything. It was Parker.
I actually want to give him more than a 7 because of how consistently he controls it, and the only time you're doing anything else with his token is to keep him more alive with removing conditions like bleed, and like bleed is one of those things that we've talked about. Like, it's a way to, the toughest characters in the game, if they have bleed on them, they'll actually be more mortal, right? It does actually make a big difference. It actually
adds up on them more than most people.
Right, but this character is one of those super tough to kill characters, and he's also going to be functionally immune to bleed. So I actually think he's more of an 8 because he's one of the only hyper defensive characters in the game that also shakes some of the main ways to deal with hyper defensive characters in the game with no penalty. I like it a lot. I think he's an 8.
I'll go the other direction.
Well, I'm all here for number creep.
I'm the other direction. I think it's a 6 for the reasons of he can be gangbanged. Like, big hits are one thing, but you put two dudes on him, he can go down. Like, he's gonna have to use those
who,
fucking
who
tokens.
doesn't go down if you put 2 people into them?
Thanos, actual tough models.
Yeah,
Corvus.
Thanos is a 10. Corvus goes down, you put 2 people on him.
Not with the Reality Stone. Not generally.
Yeah, he does.
No, I don't think
So
so.
you think you need to put 3 people into Corvus to kill him?
Not need, but sometimes. And we
Well,
consider
yeah, bad dice are the exception. We're not counting bad dice. Like, technically speaking, Bob could roll 18 hits against you and one-shot Thanos. Like, that's not going to happen.
I'm just saying the 3 couple, like a range guy, like a couple things can happen. I'm just saying he's not immortal. Like, there's models that I consider tougher than him. I put him as a 6. You can call it a 7. It's your number.
No, I'm going to put it an 8 just to spite you. It's my number.
I don't care what you do.
We gave Loki a 7.
Why? Oh, because he has rerolls
He has the runaway. The runaway.
and
is
the
pretty big.
runaway. He's as tough as Loki. I'll give you that.
Groot got an 8. I think he's in line with Groot.
I'd say Sinister is even more survivable than Groot, though. Groot really can't do anything while getting his face punched
Well,
in.
the problem with Groot is you have no control over if you can one shot him.
Yeah.
Like you have you're completely at the mercy of the dice, and if you just don't do 7 damage, he just goes back to full, and it's so frustrating. He isn't quite that frustrating for Sinister. It's just so hard to land damage on him. Like so many of your attacks just do nothing.
Mhm.
I'm gonna put it as 7. I'm not gonna overrule Jeremy, even though he's crazy. 7's fine. I will say it gets extremely out of hand when you start combining with other defensive abilities. Like, I was playing him in Brotherhood a lot, because Brotherhood's another way to get him extra power. But you put him under Magnetic Refraction, and he's blocking 2 all the time and has the damage reduction. That's just not okay. Like, he's basically immortal. Anyway, moving on. We have support. I don't know that he actually supports anybody.
I think would we consider his card, the cloning, wouldn't it be support? Like adding extra
Yeah,
model?
but that's not really him. That will be when we rate the card.
Okay.
It is a strong option, so it's worth bringing up at this moment. But I don't think that's really something we can say.
Okay.
He takes power from his... he damages his team. Is that the opposite?
Yeah, is he a negative? Is he a 0?
I mean, actually, I would say the amount of like fire he takes off the team is actually pretty noticeable. Like the amount of distraction that Sinister is if you put him in the right spot is, I think, worth it. But no, I don't see any noticeable support.
Yeah.
So moving on. Control, however, this is where it happens.
Yeah.
So obviously having a bow type of effect gives you a noticeable leg up on everybody else. Let's see.
I'm gonna call it a 4.
What did we give MODOK?
A 5.
We gave MODOK a 5 because he has sat power and bow, so he's better than that.
Really? Wait, why?
Rooted in bow is far better.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say. I forgot he does rooted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I forget? We just talked about it forever. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We brought it up like 80 times.
Yarp. Let's.
I guess you could argue that he has a little bit of support because he can remove negative effects from himself, but I don't know if that's worth really mentioning.
I actually like him at the 5. I like him. I think I like him at the 5. I don't know. Does he make a 6 for control?
No, because we gave Loki a 7, and I think that's about right. I think he's about 1 or 2 notches below Loki because that Loki's like dice manipulation is pretty dumb.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to agree with the 5. Jeremy, what do you think?
I have no problem with a 5.
All right, he's a controller, or do you guys want to argue for Blaster?
No.
Most memorable parts of him are definitely controlling.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's a 6'7", 1'5". That's a pretty beefy line.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably got the best line outside of like Black Order.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to give him open the bidding. I don't know if he's a 7. He's definitely at least a 6. Just the lack of synergy is that like with other people.
What is Loki?
Because he was designed to be like a self-contained piece that doesn't really do stuff with other people. I want to say 6 instead of 7, but I'm very happy with a 7.
What did we rate Loki?
Loki overall, I think he was a 7. 5.
I don't think this guy's a Loki because Loki, you basically take Loki because you're excited about playing him in Asgardians. I think even in Cabal, I don't know when you look at Loki anymore because
this guy's just better than Loki.
Yeah, I feel like
because even Loki with the Mind Stone is comparable, but that's 5 points. Like that's a 5 point.
Yeah,
we're talking about a whole point cheaper, and it's probably about as effective.
And that's what I'm thinking. Like Mr. Sinister, Mr. Sinister at the 4 point slot. Like Jeremy said earlier, like he's such a great 4 point character. You know, he's exactly what you're looking for, and he feels like a free agent, even though he's not. Because they wanted him to be, because in the comics he is, right? The comics he's always his own boss. So, and the fact that you can put him in Cabal, and when he's in Cabal, all the things he does, it just greases all the wheels so well for him. It's the faction he wants, right? Red Skull is the faction he wants.
Red Skull's nice. Also, getting to place him into position is nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't think you necessarily actually want to play him. You know what would be fun, actually? I think playing Sin and Sinister would actually be fun.
I think that's just
because they would be so over. Like, I'm so fucking tired of my models not being where I thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
I'm just done with this whole fucking situation.
Right.
I don't think they'd have any time to focus on what Sinister was doing.
And the fact that you can drop him in other lists, or if you and the fact that you can play him, I love that he's a character in the game that you can play Sinister, or you can play Sinister with Cloning Banks, and Sinister with Cloning Banks is like a really fun, very balanced, engaging way to like play. And we talked about when the card came out, the fact that he can affect your whole roster. For example, if you're playing X-Force, for example, and you need a 4 point character for some reason, you have a bunch of Regenerators, so that card's his clone Forced Extraction is basically free in that faction. So like there are fun ways to synergize if you're playing his tactics cards, or if you just want to play it because you think it's super fun. I love how engaging the character is. For 4 points, man, it's just like this conversation makes me
talk me into it. I'm going up to a 7.
That's what I want to say. I want to say it was 7.
7's good.
7 it is. Moving on to the next most important character, Parker. I want you to read this card as fast as humanly
that's
possible.
Exactly what I thought. I was like,
we have
quickly.
Viper.
Here's Viper, Ophelia Sarkissian. She has 5 health on both sides. She's a movement long, 2 size, 3 cost character with the same defense on both sides with 3 physical, 3 energy, and 3 mystic. She has a physical poison blade that's range 2, 5 dice that gives her power for damage dealt with a wild poison special condition. A assassin's pistol, 3 cost, 4 dice, gives her 1 power for doing the attack. It has a wild stun special condition. And finally, a physical Viper Strike, which is her spender that costs 3. It gives 6 dice, range 3. After this attack is resolved, she places within 1. And a wild called Venom, which gives not poison, but slow and stun. She has a displacement ring power that costs 2 that lets her place within 2 of her current position. She has the Coiled Serpent power, which costs 2. If she's targeted with an attack within 2, she can use it. Instead of rolling dice for the defense, she rolls 5 dice. And then she's
martial prowess.
Yeah, it's martial prowess from Gamora. If this character suffers no damage, she then immediately does 2 damage to her attacker. She also has stealth.
Okay. Nobody likes this character. I just want to point that out. When I say nobody, I'm including all human beings in the history of existence.
Can I say one thing about her?
No.
It was really, really weird to print a box, like a battle box character this late in the game. Because I feel like that's what she is. I feel like she's a battle box character.
I honestly don't understand why she was released. I feel like this was a long-term kind of plan thing, and just randomly, due to something, her box set got moved up. And it's like, I feel like this is supposed to be like a fill-out kind of thing that came out next year, like late 2022. But instead, for some reason, other things got delayed, and she got through production really quickly because no one gives a shit about her. And then she just got pushed to the front of the line. I don't understand why this got released. Because even Sin is not like a new exciting character. And that actually might be the reason. Is because they wanted to mirror the number of leaders in Cabal. And so they wanted to release both leaders at the same time. And they had just pre-planned that Viper was going to come with Sin. and it just happened that she was going to get produced earlier than they expected. Like, I wonder if that's what happened. It just doesn't make sense because nobody wanted her. She doesn't seem to add any important functionality. She's not even competitive for 3 points in her own faction. Like, I don't understand the point of this character.
If spoiled yogurt was a character, I don't even.
It'd be
like,
better than this.
I'm
We would
not
give it a
even-
higher rating than
I'm not
Viper.
even attracted to yogurt at all, but sometimes it's okay. But when it's like bad and spoiled and you taste it and you're like, what the fuck? Like, and plus my favorite part of the whole thing is she has a special ring.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, what? She get that from her granddad? Like, what the fuck is that?
Exactly. I defy anyone that actually. Now, gotta give props to the devs on this part. If that's actually from the fluff, and she's actually famous for having this ring, and they knew that, and we didn't, like, that's good job, guys. But seriously, like, you could have asked 10 million people, does Viper from the Cabal have a magic ring? And the number of them that would actually know the answer is probably less than one. Like, what the fuck?
I've been reading Marvel comics for a long time. Viper always shows up as kind of a she's kind of a throwaway villain. Like, she just appears, and when somebody, in the like in between missions, like you get the big mission, and the very end of it's going to be awesome in 5 issues. She's like in issue 2 where you have to like,
she's the person you interrogate for the information on where to find the real base.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are, Deadpool's sneaking into a facility, and guess who's already there trying to steal stuff? Viper, and you have to fight her for 4 seconds, and that's
It cracks me up because it reminds me of Wreck-It Ralph and the fact that he's got that hammer he got from his dad, and everybody's like, you wouldn't be anybody without your fucking hammer you got from your dad. And they're like,
yeah.
Like, Viper, you're nobody if you didn't have that stupid ass ring you stole.
Yeah. Like, it takes a lot to make Gamora look good, and this character does that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've railed on Viper long enough, or Ophelia Sharkskin Sesen, whatever the fuck her name is. All right, so like I said, she's not even competitive for 3 points in her own faction, because if you wanted a speed long character in Cabal that costs 3 points, you're taking Zemo, because he's much better than this character.
Wait.
If you wanted a 3-point character with stealth in this faction, you'd be taking Sin. If you wanted a 3-point character that was mobile, like, you'd still take Zemo. I don't understand what's happening. Like,
Well,
there's Cabal doesn't even have that many 3-point characters, and there's multiples that are better than her.
This would be that'll be like when we get to her last number. Let's go ahead and look at her from like an offensive standpoint. Give her some. We need to get this. This bitch does not deserve our time.
I'm trying to fill airspace.
Oh,
All
good.
right, Viper offense 1.
1? She's just not a 1.
Fine, 3.
Yeah, she's a 3.
Whatever number I have to say to get this over with.
I think she's a 3 because she does have 3 different attack. Oh, sorry, no, she
Okay.
doesn't have 3 different attack types. She uses 3 attacks.
No, they're all physical attacks.
Yeah, that's ugh.
Even her spender, which costs 3, is range 3. You place 1. It's worse than Gamora's basic. Like, it is literally worse than Gamora's basic.
She's a 2. Wow, how unappealing. I think.
Yeah,
she's
she's below. Like, who's worse? Who does less damage than her? Wong? Yeah.
Wong.
Okay, Wong is a 1 on offense.
Yep.
We get it. Like, so
So
she's a 2.
She can place herself and then get killed. She can place herself, attack once, then get killed. She can place herself, move, and then attack once, and then also get killed. She gets a 2.
You're assuming she has power, which she'll only have from getting attacked and dying.
That's true. She already died, so she's on her.
All right, so it's a 2 on offense. Moving on to defense, she's the definition of bad, worse than a 3.
Yeah.
I guess she has stealth, so she's a 3.
Yeah.
Because normally we say 10 or 11 hit points, 3s across the board, basically no defensive abilities, is a 3. I guess she's a 4 because she has Coiled Serpent, which is martial prowess.
Yeah. The fact that she has
I guess.
the fact that she has Coiled Serpent within 2, and then stealth, beyond 3.
Yeah.
I think it's probably a 4. She's actually a little bit more defensive than she first appears.
All right, so 4. Support has 0.
Yeah.
Control has... Are we going to count on wild physical attacks as being control?
I think probably like 2 then for that, right? Like it's a it's a
Yeah,
chance.
we'll
to
knock
do it.
her up to a 2. There's your inflated stat line, you fucking piece of shit.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I was
Not you,
asking.
her.
Oh.
She's the fucking piece
Oh,
of shit.
sure.
Did you think I was yelling at you?
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry.
I do that a lot.
I'm sorry I spoke well of her.
All right,
Oh,
she's
man.
a 2-4-1-2 skirmisher for 3 points.
When she falls down, do her clothes come off? Because I saw a show about
No.
that.
I saw a show about that. Parker, did you watch that
Yes,
video I sent you?
I watched it.
Was it as bad as you expected?
Let me put it this way: I watched it for 30 seconds, and when I'm going to skip ahead and see if it's the same thing. Oh, okay.
It's literally the same
Let me
thing.
skip ahead to minute 8. Huh? Same thing still. Well, okay. And I turned it off.
This is a reference to last week when we talked about anime called Fire Force, where one of the characters, for no apparent reason, her superpower is her clothes fall off when she does.
Oh, there is an apparent reason because every character around her is constantly thinking about her in her underwear, and then it just appears.
It makes it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway,
So,
that show's terrible.
Can Sin be?
It could have been so good.
I think Sin is, like I said, I think Sin is not. I get what they're trying to do with her, but for all the reasons you said about her just completely not fitting into any part of this game, she's the only one who gets close to Ebony Maw. I feel like she's like a 1.5. I don't know how to get because she does.
I gave her a 1 because at least Ebony Maw has flavor. Like Ebony Maw legitimately does things nobody else does.
That's true.
Well, at the time, people do it now because they figure out how to make it happen. But I think it's honest. You can take the Space Stone on Ebony Maw. That's something Viper doesn't do.
Yeah.
Like he is one of the 3 characters in the game that's legally allowed to take the Space Stone. That's something.
Mm-hmm.
Like Viper literally brings nothing to the table.
She does nothing
but
that
being
somebody
a bad
else.
3-point
Yeah, she does nothing. She does nothing that another character in her faction does better. Yeah.
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 Anyway, all right. So I already put a 1 down. I'm not changing it. All right, moving on. Last character we're rating today, Sin.
Cynthia Schmidt. Love me some Sin. She, Brandon, you were talking about card art earlier. She actually has my favorite card art in the game because of how crazy her eyes are.
She's very upset
yeah.
on the backside.
Yeah. But in a happy way. She's like, I'm going to hurt you.
She's the most happy angry you've ever seen.
Yeah. So she is a 3-cost character that's 4 health on the front side and 6 in the back. Medium mover, size 2. She has same defensive stats on both sides. 3 physical, 3 energy, and 4 mystical. She has an automatic pistol attack, which is range 3, 4 dice, automatically gives her 1 power, and rapid fire always. So you must immediately make another attack against that character. Make it personal, which is a physical attack. It is range 2, 6 dice with 4 power. On a crit and a wild, insult to injury occurs, which allows her to make an additional make it personal attack immediately. The additional attack must target the original character and is mystical. And then she has affiliation for Cabal. So she is a Cabal leader called Red Mayhem. During the cleanup phase, after scoring victory points, you roll a die for each objective token contested. And if you roll a crit, wild, or hit, you push an enemy character contesting that objective token away. Short. And then you roll a die for everybody holding an asset token, so all enemies, holding an asset token, within range 2 of a friendly. If the result is a crit, wild, or hit again, the character just immediately drops the asset token. She has hit and run for 2 cost. It's the same as all the others, an action that lets her do an attack and then a move. Partners in Crime, which is a 0 cost reactive ability that works with Crossbones. At the end of her activation, if Crossbones is within range 4, Crossbones immediately gets to activate. And then her passive, Heir to the Wicked, when this character is damaged by an enemy or allied effect, she immediately gains 1 power if she is not dazed by that effect. And she has stealth. On the backside, she is identical, with the exception of having 2 extra health on it.
Okay. First thing I want to point out, I really hate attacks like Make It Personal. The attack is basically like very bad or very good depending on how you roll.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't like that. I wish they would move away from that in the future. Like, even if it was like you can spend 4 to do the attack or like 6 to do the attack and have the bonus, something like that. Or making it easier to hit the random effect, like any combination of 3 damage would maybe trigger it or something. I don't know. It's just very hard because and I had the same problem with Gamora. What are the odds you're doing a 6 dice attack against somebody, and then after the attack is resolved, they're A, still alive, B, you rolled a crit and a wild, and then like C, you're not dead. Like all these things have to line up for it to be valuable, and so I just don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do like her leadership. I didn't think it was going to be very good. I played it a few times. It was surprisingly good. Mainly for the second part. The first part's normal annoying. The second part is extremely annoying.
Yeah.
Having to probably make an advance and then spend a power to pick up the fucking thing you were already holding is incredibly annoying. Not to mention, if the Sin team has priority, they just go pick it up and walk away from you, and you're like, ugh! Like, how stupid was that?
You're functionally making everyone on your team a Quicksilver with their card or an Enchantress.
Yeah.
Like, that's
very, very strong. And also, you can trigger it with the same person. So it says, for each objective contested by an allied character, and then also if you're within 2 of somebody holding an asset. So commonly what happens with the way the game naturally flows is all the people pick up the extracts and then wander to the nearest secure point. Well, you just send one person over there, and it triggers on both.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I would like to point out, it does not say non-dazed allied character. It just says if they're within range of the character.
Yes.
So it's not a rule affecting your character that is dazed, and it doesn't say non-dazed. So you can run up and stand there, and even if they kill you, it's still going to trigger.
Bob, Agent of Hydra.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Bob.
This is where situations like Bob is very frustrating.
Yeah.
Because Bob's just standing there, and then you drop your token, Bob wakes up, picks it up, because you can place it within range of Bob, because you had to be within range 2 of them anyway, and then he just double moves away. Yeah. You're like, oh my god, I have to chase Bob down now.
Or what's worse, picks it up and then stands there and just dares you to have to kill him again, where he'll just start it all over.
Well, but that actually is useful for them, because they would probably gain power for killing you and then pick up the objective.
I know, but the point is, it would.
But then
it would
you
happen
would just
again.
start the whole thing over.
It would just happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, killing Bob is not a guarantee that it's over. Like, it doesn't actually stop it.
Right. Hit and run is really good on her, actually. The combination of stealth, pistol, and hit and run is actually very frustrating to play against.
Yes. That's actually one of the things I was going to comment on, is stealth is one of those abilities in the game that a lot of characters have stealth, and you're like, what? Why? Because you're never actually using it. You have to stand there and get attacked anyway, because all your attacks are range 3. Her attacks are also range 3 or range 2, but it doesn't matter, because she actually has hit and run, so she's going to get it to happen. Heir to the Wicked actually happens a bunch. She's going to get a lot more power than you thought she was going to get over the course of the game. Most 3-point characters do not plan on having the amount of power that she actually acquires. Because most of the time, so the 4 health on the front side seems really bad, but hit and run plus stealth means you're usually only getting attacked once.
Well, also, she has a pistol as her main attack, so she's going to be generating multiple power from that every time.
Right. Well, what I mean is, like, you go up, or sorry, if somebody comes up, or she has the opportunity to double pistol, then she hit and run with it, moves out of the way. Now your opponent has to move and attack her, if they have range to do so. And moving and attacking her means that she's only going to get attacked once. Yes, she only has 4 health, but you have to one-shot her, because if you do 2 damage to her, she gains 3 power, and now she's actually up on power.
Well, what I'm trying to point out is that most turns she's going to net 3 power anyway. Because she's going to shoot twice, get 2 power, pay 2 for hit and run, shoot 2 more times, get 2 more power, and then move, and then she's going to do her normal power up.
Yeah.
So she's going to be getting a lot of power really fast. So she's usually the one you're going to have playing your tactics cards.
Yeah.
Jeremy, do you have anything you want to mention about her before we do numbers?
No, you guys covered it.
Okay. All right, so offense. I don't think she's particularly great on offense, but she is only a 3-point character, so that's probably fair. Pistols are good, as we've talked about. Repeated 4 dice attacks add up real quick. And she has a nice, decent finisher. I give her a 5.
I'll give her a 6 because Partners in Crime.
So you're counting... I think that's more of a support ability.
I don't know.
Letting somebody else activate?
I feel like the husband-wife deal, you can dish out a bunch of damage before your opponent can do anything about it.
Well, I'm just saying that we usually rate that in support.
Really?
Like, it is very powerful, but we put stuff like that, like letting other people go in support. because that other character's offense can't add on to yours. Like, it is an incredibly powerful effect, and it is offensive. I'm just saying for the numbers, we consider that in the support column.
Okay.
Just like Zemo's rerolls.
5 is fine then, because I love pistols as well. Pistols is good.
Yeah. There's a lot of times I'd rather have 4 pistol shots than like 1 8-dice attack.
Yeah. Another funny thing about her, actually, make it personal seems like it may not happen very often, but if she's in Cabal and she's playing with Daddy, if Red Skull is the actual commander, then she can automatic pistol and then immediately make it personal in the same activation. Because that's if she does damage with both rapid fires.
Right.
She has to do that, but she can.
I love how everyone that like looks at Cabal, they go, pistols, that means you're getting Red Skull's thing and your one. It's like they always assume you're dealing damage with pistols, which is not how pistols work. But yeah, sure. We've already covered she doesn't need power, yeah.
What
she can get...
What I mean
the
is...
The problem with Make It Personal is she's just not going to be in range 2 very often.
Right.
But whenever she is in range 2, Make It Personal will be available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like her... Did you guys say a 6?
I said 5. Jeremy said 5.
Okay, I was actually not going to say 6. I was going to say 6 is too much, but she's very consistently double tapping with her pistols, like constantly. So yeah, I would say 5 is really good.
God, this thing is so annoying. For some reason, it changed my text. It changed my fucking character font color to the same color as the background. It's very annoying.
Gross.
It's like I go to type and it doesn't type anything because I can't see it. Okay, I think I fixed it. All right, so 5 on offense. Moving on to defense. This is probably where she's a little bit lower. She is pretty squishy.
Mm-hmm. Stealth is not nothing, but the 4 health on the front side does hurt. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. The good news is like having 6 on the back means you probably won't get double tapped and like taken out before you get to respond.
Yeah.
Especially with stealth on top of it.
She's also a 3-point model with 3/3/4. She actually has slightly above average.
She's slightly above. I think we'd have to give her a 4. Hit and run, I think, actually plays into it a bit because a stealth character with hit and run can be pretty protected if they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it starts at a 4. Does anyone want to argue for a 5?
No.
Nope.
No.
4 health is really low.
The more we do this, the more we realize hit points is more important than defensive stats.
Yeah.
And so, alrighty. Support, here we go. So she, first off, is a leader, which I think we normally baseline at about a 3. Yeah, we gave Thor a 3. Yeah. So a 3 for being a leader, basically, and then on top of that, she has partners in crime. So she probably has to be at least a 4. Jeremy, would you like to argue for higher? How good is double activations? Tell us.
Very good. Get your priority back as well.
That's what I was going to say. Her faction ability is really strong, especially if you can leverage it with lots of bodies, so you can make sure it happens all the time. You got plenty of spares, and so since she's usually playing the 3-point Cabal members and dropping in somebody really big like MODOK, you're going to want activate a priority back, and she can just get it. She can just have it, and it's been and also because you're always thinking about Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight. The first time Sin makes Crossbones activate, your opponent will go, "Wait, what?" It's like, they're not married, are they? Go, nope, they're just really good friends in mayhem. They like fucking shit up together, but they're
really good platonic friends.
Yeah, really good platonic friends. I don't think anybody wants to get in bed with this vagina with teeth, but if you, but she does have, it's the fact that she can take priority is so strong. To say,
yeah. So the way I like to play some of my factions, like criminals and spider foes that have a little bit of scenario plan them, is you basically start playing scenario, and when your opponent tries to also play scenario, you just beat the shit out of them. And so I kind of tried this with Sin in the same way. I'm not actually trying to win on scenario. I'm just going to where the scenario points are, because that's where all my victims are going to be. And then I try and leverage that as hard as I can. And so having a lot of people to trigger her leadership is nice. But also, like you said, doing the double activation is basically reducing your activation count. And so if she can get ahead on activations, she can really punish people. So Jeremy's arguing for a 5, are you? Is that right?
Yep.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Double activations are pretty rare and strong.
They have access to the tactics card as well. It's called like Sen Crossbone. It's like a weird word, but it's got
It's from Ash and Cinder, I believe.
Yep, from
Hey.
Ash and Cinder.
Talking about the explosion one?
No, I'm not
What's
talking
the
about
other
that
one?
one. It's a long range rifle thing. It's a combination of
Oh,
both their
that's,
Oh,
names.
yeah.
that's just that's illicit tech. Yeah, it's not for them specifically. Oh, it is for them.
It's,
Yeah.
specifically. I
it's
thought
for
it
them
was just
specifically.
anyone.
You have to use
So
them, yeah.
while Crossbones
Yeah,
is
so it's
moving up, it'll allow her to do her 2 attacks and then him to also punch a hole in something without your opponent be able to do anything. I mean, that's
I mean, it's a 6 dice energy attack. It's okay. Puts Incinerate on the target and people within 2.
so. I mean, if he goes
alright.
first, does his thing, use that, then she pistols him up. Like that's pretty serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not bad. I don't like illicit tech personally. I think it's a waste of a tactic slot.
It could be a
Whatever.
waste, but it exists.
Yeah, I think any action Crossbones makes that isn't an advance into melee is a mistake. That's personally what I feel.
hmm
But I respect that other people can disagree and not be wrong. So moving on to control. What does she do for control? A little bit of her leadership.
Yeah,
So
it's
she makes you
leadership.
drop your stuff and pushes you away from your
Yeah,
things.
it's pretty
That's
annoying.
that's
50%
kind of
the
a
time.
yeah, that's kind of insane, but
So what do you guys think that's worth?
It's either worth everything or nothing. Like,
yeah.
But having the ability,
ugh.
what's having the ability worth? A 3?
At least a 3.
What's at least a 3 mean? What's your vote? Give me a number. No, this fence sitting.
I'll give it a 4 because that'll win you games. It straight up wins you games, right? Like this
I mean,
will
it's
win.
the reason you're playing her.
Yeah.
Because you're not just putting her in a list if she's not the leader.
I mean, this is a blowout kind of thing where, but I can also imagine a world where it only happened once or twice during the game, and you're just like, well, shit. Then I guess it's nothing.
I think because it's so random, and I think because you don't plan on trying to win on scenario, this is mostly a stall tactic. I'm going to trip you up on scenario enough to let me just kill you and get an advantage that way. I think it's not more than a 3. I think it's just a 3. Parker, what's your opinion?
I think it's also a 3 because it, in order to take advantage, like you said, it doesn't. So the point of her character is she's supposed to be unstable, right? Like then we like she's a really good version of the Marvel Comics character because she's so unstable. And I agree with Jeremy that Red Mayhem can, in the right scenario, just wreck everything, like really turn the whole game over. So I want to give it more than a 3 for its potential. Because yeah, I think it's a 4 because of its potential. Because you could, if you, I wish I had data on it, right? I wish somebody could say like, I've played 70 games with Sin and it only won the game, in 10 of them, and I would go, okay, well,
there's a, because it happens after scoring. You're not preventing them points. You're just
Right.
reducing their actions. Because so many more of their actions and power are going to go towards picking up objectives and moving back on objectives.
yeah.
But it's 50% of the time, and you're probably going to be able to affect somewhere between 50 and 75% of their models every turn.
But you are doing what you want to do anyway, right? You want to be contesting, and you want to be going after people who have tokens.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in this game, you can't ignore scenarios, so you're still
Right.
trying to get points.
Right.
You're still contesting these objectives.
Right.
But, some scenarios are going to be less inclined towards it. Like, there's going to be ones where there's only one objective, and so it's a lot harder because that person just runs away from you, and you don't have somebody to go just stand next to them, really.
Mm-hmm.
Or they just, if you have priority, they're activating last, and they just move that person away from your guys. So there's going to be times they're going to be able to leverage against it. And also, what if you just get matched up against somebody playing another attrition style list? Like, what happens when you're just fighting against, like, Weapon X or Brotherhood, and they're just like, fine, I'll just kill you. And you're like, oh, I guess walking up and standing within 2 of Magneto was not a good idea. Turns out that's a good way to get dead.
I see your point.
That's mostly why I'm like, I don't know how strong this is, because it's not actually costing them very many points. The only time it's costing them points is if they're dropping extract and you can actually get it away from them. And it's just annoying other than that. It just lowers their efficiency. But you're not, generally speaking, you're not trying to win on scenario. Because if you're trying to win on scenario, I don't know you'd be playing Sin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's helpful, but it's not, like, game-breaking. I don't know. Give me your number. I'm done rating her.
Okay, I'm going to go with 3. You've convinced me. I like it.
Okay, 3 it is. She is a skirmisher. She's all hit-and-run style. She literally has hit-and-run. So we have a 5-4, 5-3 skirmisher for 3 points. I'm going to give her a 5. I think she's about average. Solid, but not overly compelling.
I can live with the 5. Move on.
I was actually going to say a 6 because I think she slots into her faction really well with the faction that already. I love faction leaders that can also be played with their other faction leader, and you feel really good about it. Like Captain Sam or Miles. I really like that you're not like totally giving up or selling out. You can still like building a Cabal list right now feels like you have 2 very different styles, and you can do them both within the same 10 characters. I really like that. I think she's a 6 because they did a really good job of making her highly playable within her faction.
Okay. I don't know that I agree with that point of view, but I agree. Well, I agree with the point of view. I don't agree with the assessment that that's her. I think she's okay with Red Skull, but I don't think if you're playing Red Skull, I don't think you're reaching for Sin very often.
That's potentially true, but if you did, I don't think you would be mad. I don't think you would be upset that you did. Rather, I mean, I wish I would have spent those 3 points somewhere else. But
maybe. All right, moving on. Our next topic is Comic Corner. Parker is going to read us a bedtime story.
All right. So my Comic Corner comes to you guys from one of my favorite storylines. It made a big splash in actually, it wasn't just comic book circles, it was also pop cultural circles. When Captain America, in a famous issue a couple years ago, without any sort of irony or no what if involved, he said, "Hail Hydra," and so he said "Hail Hydra" and killed Red Skull. Spoiler alert. Then that started a big internet, sensation, and everybody was really excited about it. And so Marvel promised an epic conclusion to the story, to a reasoning about how Captain America could turn traitor, and it shows up in the book called Secret Empire. So if you have not read Secret Empire, it is absolutely fantastic. It's written with a consortium of writers. It wasn't just one person. Let's see. I was going to say the primary. I think the primary story was done by. Now I feel bad. I can't see. There's so many different artists, but I was looking for the primary writer. Nick Spencer. Yeah, that's it. So Nick Spencer did the writing for the plot. Lots of different artists contributed to it. But long story short, Captain America has basically fallen victim to the Cosmic Cube. Hydra has used the Cosmic Cube to rewrite reality in such a way that Captain America is the ultimate sleeper cell, being embedded within the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. and superhero community for years and years, and slowly but surely they keep giving him more and more responsibilities as people become more and more beholden to superheroes and S.H.I.E.L.D. to just solve all their problems, and he let that happen so that eventually he could acquire so much influence that everyone gives him basically autocratic control voluntarily, and he uses that with his amazing tactical mind to completely eliminate every superhero threat in the world while simultaneously installing him as a supreme dictator of America, all completely legally. That's the setup in the first issue, and it's amazing. So if you'd like to know how he does that, how he creates the situation, how he manipulates everyone into doing this, it's amazing. And then of course afterwards the rest of the superhero world deals with the fallout. What Marvel characters are left to even fight after Captain America does such a great job of preparing this situation for himself? And then how do you resolve this? Because he's now Captain America with the full backing of Hydra and what that means, and the access to the entire American machine. And so how do you deal with this as a superhero trying to fight the fact that, oh, by the way, he is Captain America, your most confident, your biggest confidant, the one they put up on the pedestal? As far as anyone can tell, it is him. So how do you manage this as a superhero also? It's not a what if comic. It's 100% happens within the canon. So if you'd like to know how this crazy what if that actually became became Marvel canon works, read Secret Empire. It's very, very well done. It's a fantastic read that involves every superhero. And if you're a Captain America fan, you will love the end. It's a great ending.
Is this the one that generated the meme that was Agent Hydra or whatever when he's like about to walk out of the plane or helicopter or whatever?
When he says Hail Hydra.
When he says Hail Hydra,
Yeah.
he's in like the full Hydra uniform.
Yeah.
I figured that was it then.
Yes. The big, and then of course, the big splash he made when he said Hail Hydra at the end of one of the issues after he kills Red Skull. And then you're like, you what? And then Secret Empire answers that question. But man, his like Machiavellian design of how he accrues all the power is so well done. It's really, really fun to read. If you like the What If show that's coming out right now, and you want to read a What If that is canon, this is probably the best What If comic I've ever read, even though it wasn't a What If comic. Super good.
Speaking of What If, run, don't walk, go watch What If. It's good.
Yeah.
There's a couple kind of throwaway episodes, but for the most part, very solid.
Mhm.
Very solid.
I'm very happy to be giving my money to the mouse.
Just
It's
so you can
money-
watch this.
It's money well spent, man. Between The Mandalorian and everything that is Marvel on Disney Plus is just fantastic.
Yeah, I love that. Without as basically no spoilers, I love that all of my favorite characters in all of the episodes were my favorite characters for a reason.
hmm
Yeah, it is very good. I liked it. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining us this week. This has been Brandon.
And Dr. Mantis Toboggan, MD.
This is Jeremy, and you can find my stuff on eBay. Hashtag it's all for sale. Thanks to Parker.
Hashtag broken models. Hashtag Jeremy. Hashtag buy it now. All right. Well, hope you had a good time. This has been Viper Sucks.
So what are we gonna call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just gonna put down infamous.
I saw. When did we see? Yeah, I saw Venom last Friday. Did you guys see Venom?
No, sir.
No.
It was okay.
I keep thinking
It
I'm
was
gonna
not
take.
amazing.
I keep thinking I'm gonna take my boys to it, just because it's the first one was just like so bleh, like I wasn't excited, and it was like I don't know. Is it too insane to take 9-year-olds to?
I thought it was very PG.
Yeah, Venom seemed very PG to me as well.
I think it was overly PG, which is why I did not actually think it was great.
Now, my boys, on the other hand, Logan had more F-bombs than I remember, but they enjoyed it nevertheless.
One of my high school teachers decided to let us watch Band of Brothers in class, and randomly one of the episodes opens up on this guy having sex with like a prostitute. And I'm like, okay, like teacher got up screaming across the room trying to turn it off. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's weird. Like Squid Game is super popular right now, and everybody's watching on Netflix. And someone was asking me, "Hey, is it cool if my teenage girls watch it?" And I'm like, hold on, let me think. There's one gratuitous sex scene though, for no random fucking reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you'll see it coming, and just click forward. Like it just is. It's so weird. It was just in there, like for no fucking reason.
Yeah. I mean, from what I understand, that's like a very cultural thing. Like the UK is a lot more restrictive on like violence in movies for as far as rating than they are on like nudity and stuff. And so like it's just like what would get like an R rating here would not get the same rating in Europe, from what I understand.
What's weird about the rating system is there is absolutely no science and consistency behind it. It's just like a group of unknown adults in California just belong to this ratings association, and they just decide to do it. So it's like, it's not, there's no like uniformity. There's no like, I mean, they do use like a bunch of people give it a rating and then they find like an average. So there's a little bit of science. It's not one person doing it, but they do not talk about how many people do the rating, and they don't talk about what it takes to like become a rater other than just be an adult. Yeah, it's
so we find out. I find out
BS.
the hard way. I found out the hard way a few times. My boys are like, "It's PG." I'm like, "Okay." So they'll watch it, and I can't remember what these are. There's a handful of them. They're movies that should be R because they landed there, but there was no PG-13 to capture them, so they're PG. And you're like, "There's no goddamn way that's PG."
It's like they barely got past the R rating, but there wasn't anything until PG, and so that's where they landed. Yeah. It's like they barely made it through the strainer, and now they're just writing down to the creamy nougaty goodness on the bottom. You're like, oh god, how did this get down here?
Yeah. Also, older movies, the ratings, because over time, like people's sensibilities change.
Desensitized,
like some movies that get rated, PG back then, you watch them now and you're like, Jesus, like the amount of the content in them is just absolutely out of control. You would never see that today.
I have zero sympathy for like parents that are trying to shelter their kids from like bad language and stuff. I'm like, you gave your kid a fucking smartphone and you think I need to not swear around them? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like there is no like filter in your kid's life, yet you accept me to filter myself for them. It's like, shut up.
Oh, here we go. So here's the list. So PG movies that were just PG: Gremlins, Beetlejuice, Indiana Jones, and the Temple of Doom. All PG.
There was some serious face melting in that one.
All PG.
There's
So
literally
crazy.
Nazis in it. Like that alone should give it a PG-13 rating.
That's the Last
Some
Crusade.
dude got their heart
You're thinking
ripped out.
Last Crusade.
Temple of Doom was
There's Nazis in all of them.
Well, yeah, but Temple
except
of Doom,
for Temple of Doom.
literally someone got their heart ripped out, caught on fire, and then dumped into a volcano in front of you.
Yeah. Parental guidance. Think about it. Consider parental guidance.
Consider it. Just consider it.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know. The whole ratings thing and like what an R-rated movie means, like I guess you're talking about the people that are swayed by the ratings. So like I would consider like 75% of people literally you could remove ratings and their lives would not change in the slightest, right? Like what's the point of an R rating to like a random dude on the street?
Yeah,
Like, it doesn't matter. Like they don't care.
Here's another good one. Jaws is PG.
Yeah. Well, they were almost an R rating. But the reason they were almost an R rating is because the girl at the beginning. That was what almost pushed them over the line. Not all the like the blood, because they don't actually show that much blood and carnage. Like there's some red dye in the water, but there's no actual blood.
Yeah,
like, there's no gruesome scenes.
It's super fun with children finding all this out. Sometimes you find out in the hard way. Like, oh my god.
No, I get the ratings on movies and stuff. I'm just saying that, like, the people that are affected by ratings, I think, are a decently small portion of the community, which is like vast majority of which are parents with young kids.
I didn't need to know that Deadpool is rated R to not let my kids watch it.
Exactly.
I think the main thing about it is what rating systems have become. I don't know if they were intended to be this originally, but definitely what they've become is the parents going, I don't want to experience this media with my children because that requires like my time and attention. I want this media to be me for a moment so I can go do something else. So I just need to know that it's not bad. I
want to use it as a babysitter.
Yeah, I want you to do the job for me. And in all of like your examples, Jeremy, it's all just like, I want to watch something with my kids. Well, honestly, if you watch something with your kids, you could probably show them just about anything, and then you would hit pause. You can, you can rewind. You could probably even hit, fast forward. You could even probably, just let it go and talk to them later. Ask them questions about what they think. I remember when I was a kid, like one of one of the an early memory of my watching cinema was Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Like
Nice.
Like that's one of the earliest movies I remember watching.
Yeah.
Before, I think maybe even before that, I saw the Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like I saw a man throw a saw blade into another man's skull. And I think I was not 18. I was maybe 10, and so, and I remember, I remember explicitly like my dad. Telling me, smiling and laughing at it. The point of he made light of it. You're like, how silly was that? Isn't that silly? And that's how that's how I experienced, that kind of violence. It was a silly thing. It was something almost comical. It was not something to be emulated or how awesome was this. And that's how he approached it. And he never stopped to tell me violence isn't okay. But the point it was of how gratuitous it was fun. Not necessarily to be emulated. It was funny is the word, funny. And so it was and every single one of those movies I saw them, with my dad, and if I had questions he would answer them and stuff like that. So I think if you right now my youngest daughter because my youngest daughter has watched the entire season of these 2 different television shows. Both of them are they say Y7 on them. And when Sarah found this out, she's like, are you sure Regina should be watching this? She's only 4. And I said, I have watched every single episode of both of these series with them because I enjoy them also. And it's fantastic for Cece to see like a serial show and watch a character and care about a character as they grow and change. This is awesome. And Regina understands none of that context, and there's nothing about these shows that's dangerous. And if I found one thing, I would ask her to do something else. But if you look, go ahead.
I was going to say the things that scare me now are not movies at all. The things that scare me now is this YouTube bullshit that kids go down these crazy rabbit holes on. I mean,
it's like you turn on autoplay and somehow you get from like fucking My Little Pony to like the Holocaust, and you're like, whoa, like let's calm down here, kids. Like,
yeah, there's certain things I don't let my kids check out. Like we love monster movies, and like my kids, I mean, they're 9. We've watched Predator together. Like I'm like, it's fucking monster. It's badass. It's fine. Like they get it. It's a monster. So they'll look up Predator on YouTube, and then they'll go down this rabbit hole, and all of a sudden they're watching like The Shining, the entire movie. I'm like, dude, that isn't cool. Like, no. That's some disturbing shit. That's totally different. Yeah. That's not a monster movie. That's a fucking freak out, crazy ghost show. Like, stop watching it. That's what scares me.
Another thing that maybe this freaks me out more is one day the girls were watching Peppa Pig on YouTube, and by the way, Peppa Pig YouTube channel is fantastic because they just play extremely long, like they're not 10 minutes long. Yeah. But somehow they got to the end of one. I think Cecilia, fast forwarded it to because she was playing with it, and it got to the end, and it sent them to, or rather, it prompted them to do new things, and one of them was a bunch of toys, and so they clicked on that, and it was just a bunch of really creepy people talking, doing basically doing box openings for different toys, and the content and the way they were talking about them and just them in general, they were weird.
Not something you would choose to expose your children
yeah, just
to.
like I was like, these people it was, the word was almost like fetishists, not really. I don't know if they were sexualizing it, but they were way too fascinated with these children's toys in a way that made them sound like they should be obsessing over them, worshiping them, right? That was how they were like talking about them. And I was just like, none of this is necessarily wrong, but I don't want item worship. I don't want that. I don't want my kids to want to need stuff
also,
that much.
If the people in the video were that creepy, that's just going to desensitize your kid to being around like, shady people. Yeah. And like, that might end up with your kid getting into a van or something.
Yeah, the way they were approaching functionally like toys out of a McDonald's, like they were shitty toys. It was like the way they were talking about like McDonald's toys functionally is like the quality they're talking about. And I looked over their shoulder at one point. I said, "Guys, is this Peppa?" And they go, "Yeah, it's Peppa," because they were Peppa Pig toys.
They were on the channel. Yeah.
They're Peppa Pig toys. There wasn't their channel. No, they were not. That was not Peppa Pig affiliated, but it was Peppa Pig toys. So, like they thought they were looking at more Peppa things, and then and they like toys, so like, oh sure, I'll watch this. And I was like, this is creepy as shit. I didn't, and that kind of stuff. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Aaron who said he ran into his daughter. It turned out she had her own
I don't know
YouTube
if we
channel.
hold on. I don't know if we want to talk about other people's kids on the podcast.
Yeah, let's please not. Yeah.
Oh, come on.
No, I mean from concept, but you start throwing names around.
Yeah. He named name.
Let's tell an unrelated story about some guy's kid, though. That's definitely not Aaron. No, just kidding. But yeah, no, was that Aaron? I thought that was Brandon. I thought
You
that was
might
other
be.
Brandon.
You might be right. You might be right.
Well, we can tell a story about his kids. He
Oh,
doesn't
that's
give a
fine. Just the whole concept of like the rabbit holes you can go down so quickly with the internet the way it is. I mean, you're just watching a video and then all of a sudden you're 20 levels deep into some nonsense.
Yeah. And well, that's actually I want to talk on that story a bit because that's kind of it's in the vein we're talking about. Kind of goes down that same rabbit hole of like when I said earlier, you give your kid a smart device and then you think that you're like filtering them from anything at that point. You've missed the point by like a wide margin. And so like his kid was set up to do some kind of online like streaming or YouTube channel thing, but he had turned off comments. Like you couldn't like interact with people on it. So it's like you could post videos and stuff, but you can't interact with the community.
Right.
And so one of the ways like they find ways to get around this, and it's like, well, then they create this publicly shared Google document, and then they go in there and basically use it as a chat room because they're both typing in the document at the same time. And so it's like, well, I mean, I think a lot of parents that, especially that are less tech savvy, obviously, like you two know a lot about computers because like we're doing a podcast, you're already ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
But like a lot of parents don't have that. Like I know my guardian that raised me was like she can't like freaking set up a router. Like it'd be impossible for her to get internet without help. Like so it's not the same situation. And so I think people don't realize how much access their children have to the outside world.
I mean,
But more importantly, as we were talking about, Venom is indeed PG-13, I believe.
It is. I looked it up.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty bad
There-
guy, but I'm not.
You can
walking-
tell because I'm pretty sure there's going to be a much better R-rated version released because there's multiple points in the movie where it just like 3 seconds are missing. Like it literally just skips ahead 3 seconds. You're like, I wonder what happened before and after this guy disappeared. Like, I wonder.
I read some reviews and it did say it was pretty chopped up, like really fast paced, and like it seems like the story was supposed
lot
to
of
be
quick
something
cuts.
different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All in all, it was all right.
I'm sure you got
So-
what you paid for. I mean,
I mean,
Carnage and
I don't
Venom.
know about the backstory, but visually they nailed Carnage. Carnage looks exactly like Carnage should and fights, as far as I know, like he should fight. Like it was very close. I actually thought Venom looked a little weird. He felt less bulky in this version. Like he feels just large like an ape, but not like muscular. He's just large. I'm like, oh, okay.
as long as it was cool. I mean, that's really what it's about. Like that movie, like Venom had some cool parts. I thought it was a terrible movie, but it had cool parts. And I was kind of like, well, if you get both of them, what it kind of makes me feel like though is Spider-Man 3, the one with Black
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
Silver Race. Yeah.
It's just too much shit. Like there's no story. It's just all craziness.
mhm.
I definitely didn't feel that way. It's very similar. It's just a different version of Venom 1. But I will say the after credit scene is very exciting.
Are they starting to feel like? Did it feel like MCU is like right there at the door? Does it still feel very Sony? Like, are they still like?
The movie is very Sony. The after credit scene is 100% MCU.
Cool. Okay, I'm in then. That's probably worth
Yeah.
the price of admission.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure you can just YouTube the after credit scene. It doesn't spoil anything in
Yeah.
the movie.
That's cool.
But yeah, let's just say shit's about to hit the fan.
Okay.
Alrighty. So, in related news, and also related to the fact that we want to get you guys to bed before 3 a.m., do you guys know what you call a pile of cats? A meowton.
Ugh.
get it because it's like a meowton.
I don't know why for a moment. I think it's because of how tired I am. I really wanted to be like, okay, no, there is a word for a bunch of cats together. It's a funny word.
It's a murder of cats.
And while you were thinking, you're being stabbed in the back.
I don't know why. I don't know why I thought there wasn't
Someone
a joke.
just
Of course
shoved
it
a
was.
running chainsaw into your abdomen.
Of course it was a joke.
"Oh."
Of course it was a joke. But why? Why did I stop for a moment to go? A group of.
I'm still mad about the Mortal Kombat one. So.
The Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that's right.
The Mortal Kombat one was good because nobody expected that.
I remember that.
We weren't on the dad jokes being regular yet, and so it was like very out of the blue.
I was like, I've heard this before. It's a clouder. A bunch of cats is a clouder.
Oh my god!
I had heard that before. A bunch of cats is called a clouder.
In the famous words of Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller, magic doesn't fool you because you're stupid. Magic fuels you because magic is stupid, and you don't want magic to be stupid. So that's why the dad jokes get you sometimes, because you're just like, oh, this has got to be an actual interesting answer. Son of a bitch, I'm going to strangle this person.
Yeah.
Like that's how they get.
Yeah, I love that whole concept. Magic
that
is
willingness to believe. Yeah, it's like, well, surely it's not that stupid, and the answer is yes. It was even stupider than I thought it was.
Yeah.
The way I thought he was doing it was so much more complex than the way he was actually doing it. All right, so what do you want to talk about today?
I thought we were going to rate some things, right?
Gonna rate some more stuff?
I
What do you want to rate?
thought we paused in rating, or did we actually finish?
No, we finished. We had to rush through the end, but we got through it.
Let's do. There's only 4 X-Men on this list. Let's do 4 X-Men. Or because we don't have, or we could put Phoenix on it, right?
There's a lot of new X-Men coming out.
But do we want to wait for all those X-Men to have so many X-Men, or?
Well, but I don't want to rate like an incomplete faction, because right now I think the characters are going to get adjusted when they get better synergies.
What about, we got 1, 2, 3 Cabal members that are just Cabal members that we could rate?
Yeah, I don't think we actually rated Cabal.
We rated
And I think we were waiting for Sin and Crossbones to be finished.
Yeah, we
Let's
rated.
see here.
Actually, we did rate Cabal. We got Zemo, Skull, Ultron, MODOK, but we did not get.
We're missing Bob, Sinister, Viper,
and Crossbones. We did Crossbones already, but Sin.
and Sin. Yeah, so there's 4. We could do that. That'd be easy.
Yeah.
That'll eat up some time. Do we have anything else we want to chat about? Ooh, we can talk about our great games we had over the weekend.
Oh boy,
how awesome they were!
I was waiting for the podcast.
Do what? You were waiting for the podcast to get.
I'm not even fucking going there yet.
Parker, I'm drinking your ginger lager.
We also. Another option could be. So since all of us have tried it, I think, or maybe Brandon, you haven't tried it, but more Avengers like Quicksilver, Iron
I've
Fist,
never once
Luke
played
Cage.
Avengers in my entire life.
And I thought, New Cap is not on this list here, but
No, I haven't added anything past like 58. I think.
I was gonna say, so like, yeah, the newer Avengers. We could also do that, but Cabal would be easier because there's still more newer Avengers when Iron Man comes out and stuff like that. So we could do that together with them. I guess it was just him. I guess it's just him, but
yeah. So we'll just do the last of the Cabal people today.
I like that.
Cool. Parker, there's something I want to talk to you about before we get started. When you're reading the cards, you're very inconsistent on how you're reading them. Sometimes you just vaguely summarize, and then other times you like read word for word. And so I was just going to suggest when you're doing it, just pick one. If you think everybody knows the card, just run through it quickly. But if you think it's like stuff that people need to know as a prelude to rating it, just go ahead and read it word for word and just get past it. Because sometimes you'll like summarize a section and then go back and read it, and it just seems to take more time.
Okay.
So I was just going to give that criticism to you.
Sure.
All right. So, Jeremy, you don't want to talk about the games we played?
Oh, I do.
Wait, he's going to.
Are you going to use your words?
He's gonna.
Nothing makes Jeremy more mad than talking about his games.
Parker, is this a fresh comic corner?
Yeah, we did not use it last time. It's good.
Okay. All right, here we go. She does. She's fucking terrible.
I can't believe how shitty she is. Like, it's
Like, you look at her, you're like, why? Like, why did they print this card, let alone make a model for her?
Is it weird?
Like, just...
Is it weird whenever I read her? She doesn't make it doesn't make me angry. Like Ebony Maw made me angry because I wanted it to be good. It looks like it should work, but it doesn't. But she didn't make me angry. She mostly just like every time I remember she's in the game, I kind of scratch my head for a moment and I go, "Yeah, why is that in the game?" And I just keep moving on.
Yeah,
like
I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't give her, but I don't give her the time of day. Like I really don't.
It's not
think about it that much.
So she sucks. Like she is not good, but. That's not why she's the worst. Like, she's the worst because she is Viper. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Why is she in the game? I don't know. It's very annoying. So, I want to put up a poll on Facebook. Which was the worst Viper? The one from the Wolverine movie? Or this one? It's like, which is the worst Viper? I think the one in the movie might actually be better.
Yeah. Hey, actually, speaking of Wolverine movies, like, Lady Deathstrike is not in this game. Like... an iconic B-level, Marvel villain, not in this game, but Viper is in this game. I do not get it.
And I feel like I understand the storyboarding concept. So they basically go, what characters can we do? And they're like, should we do? Do we have to do? And they make a list. And then they go, okay, let's break it into factions. And so they split it all out into a bunch of columns. And they go, okay, which characters complement these characters in the storylines well? And they add more stuff to the list. Then they go, all right, can we break any of these into any more factions? And if they do, they split those out. And then they go, okay, what else could we do? And then they just kept adding characters like, well, who worked with this person a lot? This person. And then this person worked with those people a lot. And then eventually, somehow, Viper and Cassandra Nova made it on those lists. And then they paired them off into box sets. And then they made a list on what they're going to work on. And so just randomly, because Sin was paired with Viper, she got released. That's got to be it, right? There's got to be nothing else makes sense in my brain. It's like when Jerry escaped the uprising. He's like, I just kept crawling and it kept working. Like, that's how she got made. Like, nobody said no, and so she got made.
I just kept crawling and it kept working.
Kept crawling, it just kept working.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm not proud of it, but that's what happened.
Yeah, entirely throwaway. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah. Who was it, Parker? Because you said you'd throw away Cassandra Nova.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said I would throw away... Did I say Viper? I think I said Ebony Maw.
Cassandra Nova actually has a couple things that are kind of unique.
Yeah, she has the most convoluted tactics card in the game, of course.
The most convoluted.
It's fucking 9 paragraphs. Each sentence changes the point of view of the reader. Like what is happening?
No pronouns. None, because you don't dare have a pronoun.
I got 2 functional adults in a room together, and I read the card out loud. I said, explain to me what happens. Neither of them can tell me what the fuck happens.
There's no telling.
Like, they're like, I don't know. Like, someone attacks somebody. I know that happens. Something moves, and then something gets attacked.
Well, as box sets go, I have to say, at least Sin came out with Sin and Viper. Jean Grey came out with Casanova, Dova, whatever. And like,
Casanova,
I have to say, as a 5-point model, Jean is a tough sell. Oof.
Jean! Well, they had to make her easily killable so that you could play Jean.
Make her 4 fucking points. She's an X-Man. Jesus Christ. Why she got to be fucking 5?
It's weird how Guardian's faction ability is minus 1/2 of a point, and X-Men is like plus 1.5 points. Like, all their shit costs so much more than it should. It feels like
some factions in every game. You're like, well, this faction just pays a little bit more because they have premium stats. They have premium this. X-Men is like, well, this faction just pays a little bit more.
We see X-Men pay more points for their models.
Yeah,
they have less synergy than most factions, and they have the worst tactics cards in the game. And then you just stop talking.
Yeah.
They're like, wait, what?
They
what
were
else?
super proud.
There's no end then.
18 months ago, someone was super proud of Scott Summers' abilities. And they were like, God. Jesus Christ, how do we tone this down? Yeah. So that's what's happening. So we're going to pay until they hit that 18-month break. And they're done thinking about him.
I do think that Shield Mind on Jean Grey is a important ability to exist in the game. But like I've said before, she suffers from the let's give her 2 power a turn thing.
Yeah.
And like they built the character starting there. And they're like, all right, well, she's got to get more power than everybody else, so give her 2 power a turn. Then they're like, well, she gets 2 power turns, so let's make all of her stuff appropriately costed. It's like, that's not what that means. Like, you can't do it that way. You need to generate the amount of power based on how much your stuff costs. Yeah, anyway. Dumb.
She has 5 dice. Sap power. Like, it's not nothing bad, just not enough.
Yeah. She needs, like, 4 power a turn.
Also, what is the matter transmutation thing? Choose another character with an activated token
I was just reading that.
within 2 and push it short. That's so weird.
Yeah.
It costs 3. It costs 3 with
It
2.
can affect enemies.
Yeah, with 2 caveats. So
Wait, what? What do you mean? Oh, that it has an activated token and that's within 2?
yeah,
Being within range is not a caveat.
yeah, but almost
how
all those
abilities
abilities are within 3, right? Almost all of them. There's so few of those.
Yeah, but it also can affect friendlies.
Yeah, I get it. I guess
you can move multiple people.
but since they already have an activated token, you're not doing it. I guess
Right,
it's,
so if Jean goes last,
it's
she
for
moves
Jean
in,
go-
she moves everybody.
yeah, that's
you
the
win.
idea. Yeah, for the idea is
Yeah.
Jean goes last,
But-
and so can.
But
stop.
because she gets 1 extra power a turn, all of her shit costs 1 more, so it costs 3 instead of 2. That's the confusing
Right.
part. It's like, it should have just costed 2.
right,
Yeah, anyway. Alright, are you guys good? I think I'm good.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, bye everybody.